Unreconciled. Unreconciled. Extreme indignation. Of course, there was also a deep sense of powerlessness. Long Fei's eyes were bloodshot, filled with endless hatred. He had waited far too long for this day. He continued to fly up from the lower plains, killing as hard as he could without stopping. And now, this day had finally arrived. However, he hadn't thought that there would be such an ending. He wasn't a match at all. Even if one had the power of a giant roulette, it was still not a place where they could merge at once. The difference was too great. It was also at this time that the figure of the Emperor Xian descended from the skies, standing in midair with his hands behind his back into heaven and earth. It seemed as though the chief sovereign of the void was an invincible world. The strong thing in this world has never been strength. He's a human. Even now, you are still trash before this emperor. It just so happens that this world of the sun god became the final destination of your life. You'll die here. The Emperor Xian said, his eyes turning cold. Then his hand fell. This kind of strength seemed to be very easy and casual. Actually, it wasn't. Just the movement was enough to make one feel powerless, as if one was looking into the mysteries of the world. With every movement, there would even be some distance. The destructive power of this palm grew stronger. In the end, it even released an aura that could destroy all living things. Even if it was the power of the roulette, it was nothing in the face of that power. Did you see that? This is true power. Any method you rely on is just an illusion. Only when one is strong oneself will one truly be strong. Thus, before this emperor, you will forever be nothing more than a piece of trash. Die! Emperor Xian shouted coldly, incomparably arrogant. Instantly, the palm descended. He went straight for Long Fei. The 9 heavens had become completely silent. It was as though they were witnessing it together. The terrifying power of the Emperor Xian. Invincible punch. Long Fei also attacked. The release will could not be used, but Long Fei would definitely not let go and let Emperor Xian take action. He still had his physical body. I refuse to believe that your power is stronger than the ruins. Long Fei's eyes were cold and speechless, while the power of Limitless on the other side of his body surged as he attacked crazily. Boom! Rumble, rumble, rumble. When the two's powers clashed, the Emperor Xian's power immediately dispersed. However, Long Fei was in an even worse state, was directly blown away by the Emperor Xian. Boom! He was once again heavily injured. Blood trickled down the corner of Long Fei's mouth, and his eyes dimmed, which meant that right now, his physical body was extremely powerful. Otherwise, he would have long since died in front of the Emperor Xian. Looks like you still have many secrets. This roulette is so powerful that even this emperor's heart is moved. It's a pity that the pearl was covered in dust and became your trash's divine weapon. However, rest assured, if you die, this emperor will refine you again. Also, your body contains a big secret. As long as I kill you, all of this will belong to this emperor. Emperor Xian said indifferently, his gaze narrowing. He looked towards Long Fei and attacked again. However, right at this moment, a ray of light suddenly burst forth from the other side of the lake. Incomparable heat. It was incomparably dazzling. The whole void was illuminated. Long Fei's eyes moved slightly as he opened his mouth in panic. No, no, Long Fei shouted. This light was none other than Hong Qiuye. Previously, Hong Autumn Leaf had been promoted to God of Boundary. It was only because he had acted and sealed him off on the other side of the river that he was safe. Now, in the face of such a violent power from the Emperor Xian, Long Fei definitely did not want his woman to face danger. But Hong Qiuye just smiled calmly. His eyes were filled with determination. It was as if he had already made some important decision. No, Long Fei shouted. His entire body was in incomparable pain. Emperor Xian's actions made him feel powerless. Now, with his own woman blocking in front of him, Long Fei felt even more miserable. Instantly, Long Fei's figure rushed out crazily. He wanted his woman to block the blade for him. Long Fei would definitely not allow it. In an instant, Long Fei's figure had directly rushed to Hong Qiuye's side. She grabbed onto Hong Chiu-yi, pulled him back, and threw him directly to Hong Yi's side. Hong Yi sighed and hurriedly pulled on Hong Chiu-yi. He turned around and headed to the other side. Kid, you have to live on. Hong Yi turned around and glanced at Long Fei. The corners of Long Fei's mouth curled into a smile as he nodded his head heavily. Yes, this was the result that Long Fei wanted to see. Everything he cultivated was for the sake of protection. As long as his woman was safe, even if she were to die, Long Fei would not be afraid. Boom! Asterisk another punch, and Long Fei's figure was smashed down once again. This time, Long Fei's body also started to collapse. The perception between the two was too great. The power of the Emperor Xian was hard to fathom. Still not dead, the Emperor Xian's eyes burned with fury as he looked at Long Fei, who was lying in a pool of blood all over his body. Anger grew in his heart. Right now, he was already recognized by the entire world as the #1 powerhouse. With a single finger, he could destroy an extremely powerful existence in a plane. But now, even though he had attacked Long Fei several times, he was still unable to kill him. If I give you a bit more time, perhaps this capital will feel troubled. Unfortunately, today is the day you die. This emperor will absolutely not give you another chance to continue living. The Emperor Xian said coldly as he took a step forward and directly stood in front of Long Fei. Dying. The killing intent in Emperor Xian's eyes surged, and he directly attacked. This time, his strength completely erupted, incomparably violent. Just the aura alone was able to create sparks in the surrounding space. It began to crackle loudly, as if it was about to burn. Below, Long Fei struggled with all his might, his eyes completely red. He wasn't willing to accept this. His heart was filled with extreme unwillingness. System, what kind of power is able to reverse the situation? I'm not afraid of death, but I don't want to die in such a useless manner. If the Emperor Xian doesn't die, even if I die, I won't be willing to give up. Long Fei felt bitter in his heart. He kept roaring and crazily checking all his power. Unfortunately, he still lacked billions of experience to use even the hand seal. The emancipation wheel was also sealed, becoming completely dark and gloomy. As for the other skills, they were even more useless. It was as if at this moment, there was no way to reverse any of the powers. Is he really going to die? I can't accept it. Long Fei raged at his heart as he glared at him. However, it was simply unable to stop the power of the Emperor Xian. However, it was at this point that an incredibly evil aura exploded out from the sun god world, shooting up into the sky. Then from within the world of the sun god, a dark country shot into the sky. It was heading straight for the void. In an instant, the country of darkness flew towards Emperor Xian. Emperor Xian was startled and had no choice but to change the direction of his strength, blasting towards the Dark Kingdom. Haha, I finally succeeded. This era belongs to my Meng Shunji. Dark Kingdom, eternal evil. Meng Shunji's sudden intrusion immediately disrupted the Emperor Xian's plans. Meng Shunji's sudden intrusion immediately disrupted the Emperor Xian's plans. An incomparable amount of energy slammed into Meng Shunji's Dark Kingdom. Boom! One punch. The endless power of evil exploded forth. It covered the sky and covered the earth, making it impossible for the naked eye to capture it. An incomparably evil energy filled the air, blending the heavens and the earth. Emperor Xian's expression changed slightly as a sinister look surfaced on his face. He was just a hair away from killing Long Fei. It would end all the wishes of the past few years. From then on, he would have nothing to worry about. The invincible ancient world no longer had to worry about any Long Fei, any Long Batian. However, at the most crucial moment, he was stopped. This kind of feeling made Emperor Xian feel like she had eaten feces. It was extremely uncomfortable. You're courting death. Emperor Xian unleashed his killing intent and threw out a punch. Rumble, rumble, rumble. An incomparable berserk power blasted into the endless dark kingdoms. It caused the evil of the entire country to rise. Endless, Monstrous evil spirits and Azura devils burst forth from it. All of them bared their fangs and brandished their claws in an incomparably ferocious manner, emanating a bloodthirsty desire. It seemed as if it would cover the heavens and earth, erupting forth from within the Dark Kingdom. Instantly, it enveloped Emperor Xian within it. Meng Shenji also had a look of enjoyment on his face, as if he was a lonely king who controlled the world. Invincible throughout the universe. Foreign power? So what? The power of my era has already integrated the evils of this entire era, and no one can stop it. Meng Shenji coldly said, full of confidence. He did not even place the power of the Emperor Xian in his eyes. Below, Long Fei also took this opportunity to start recovering. The pill began to swallow with all its might. Coupled with the functions of the physical body, it was completed within the time of a few breaths. Idiot, if Emperor Xian only had this kind of ability, would Laozi have lost so badly? Long Fei sneered in his heart. However, Long Fei naturally did not mind having someone to block the spear. On the contrary, he hoped that Meng Shenji would be stronger. Let's fight. It's best if both sides suffer. Let this daddy take advantage of you. Long Fei thought. His eyes flickered as he locked onto the world of the sun god. Right now, he needed to level up. A lot of experience is needed to fill the gap. Only in this way would there be a chance at survival. With that thought, Long Fei rushed forward and directly entered the Yang God realm. Instantly, King Kong went straight to the point, withdrawing his power. He walked to Long Fei's side. They didn't care about the safety of a Yang God world. As long as Long Fei was safe and sound, they would have nothing to fear in their hearts. Boss! With Li Yuanba in the lead, the few of them immediately went over. Oya looked worried. Long Fei, now that the ancient world is attacking, we have already detected his presence. Why not? Aoya said. She already had thoughts of retreating. This was because they had witnessed the previous battle. The power of the Emperor Xian was too violent. They were not his match at all. Most importantly, they did not want Long Fei to be in danger. Yet these words caused Long Fei's eyes to light up. An impulse started to arise in Long Fei's heart. I can already feel the aura of the ancient world. These words caused Long Fei's heart to tremble. The ancient world was too important to Long Fei, because now his mission had been completed. When a clone became a Yang God, it would instantly increase by 2 levels. Right now, he was at the 8th level of ancient world. If he rose 2 levels in a row, he would become a paragon. When the time came, nothing would be a problem. Yes, but the speed is very far. Perhaps we will wander in the void. Her eyes were filled with anticipation. Be it wandering in the void or returning to the ancient world. To them, it made no difference. As long as he could avoid the danger in front of him, then everything was acceptable. Hearing that, Long Fei's eyes dimmed. The hope that was just born was instantly annihilated. We can't leave. I've finally met the Emperor Xian. If I just leave like this, I won't be satisfied. As Long Fei explained, his eyes flashed with a crazed light. Boss, don't do anything stupid. That's right, eldest brother. Let Qingshan stay with you. There is nothing to be afraid of. You are already very strong now. As long as a little more time passes, you will definitely be able to kill Emperor Xian. The few of them panicked. She didn't want Long Fei to take the risk. Don't worry, if it doesn't work, I won't take the risk. Long Fei muttered to himself. Following that, Long Fei immediately turned around and rushed into the crowd. Invincible punch. It swept in all directions. One after another, the energies brought about by the ancient family's legacy were annihilated by Long Fei with a single punch. In the distance, Lu Luoshi and the rest were fighting to stop the patriarch of the ancient family. Therefore, to Long Fei, the following situation was a one-sided slaughter. Without the powerhouse, the strongest would only be at the early stage of the super-perfection. This kind of strength, to Long Fei, was not something that could be challenged at all. Boom, 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 boom. Long Fei kept punching him again and again. It was so simple and crude. However, the entire world was filled with wounds during this process. Blood dyed the world. Countless people from the ancient world were killed by Long Fei. The eyes of the patriarchs of the few great families in ancient world crumbled. The flames of fury burned in his eyes. It wanted nothing more than to swallow Long Fei alive. However, there was nothing he could do. With Lu Luoxi and the others holding them back, it was already too much for them. Where did he get the time to be distracted? As for Long Fei, he was completely immersed in the slaughter. Simple and crude. This caused the ruthless aura around Long Fei to become even stronger. Of course, experienced sword. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for killing Ancient World Lin family. You have received 300,000 experience points, 300,000 Holy Source points, and 1 striking value point. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for killing Ancient World Gu family. You have received 280,000 experience points, 280,000 Holy Source points, and 1 striking value point. The system beep exploded. Every single person from the Ancient World S had brought Long Fei tens of millions of experience. This allowed the accumulation of Long Fei's experience to instantly accumulate to an unimaginable height. 200 billion. If not for the fact that he was still in the Young God world, Long Fei believed that he would have instantly broken through and leveled up several levels in a row. However, the slaughter had come to an end. All the people from Ancient World were killed. Other than the patriarchs of the various families, there were also the descendants of the 5 emperors. There was already no one present. Long Fei walked forward step by step. "Leave the rest to me," Long Fei said with a dense look in his eyes. Lu Luoxi and the others were also about to be exhausted of their holy source. No one said anything more and directly handed the battlefield to Long Fei. "Ancient family? TSK, very good. When you were chasing and killing me, I swore that when I returned to the divine space in the future, I would definitely uproot all of you. But from the looks of it, there's no need. Because only after today, there will no longer be any descendants of aristocratic families in this world." Long Fei said indifferently. He released the Wheel of Relief in his hand. This time, he was going to erupt with full power. All of his enemies would be annihilated. In the sky, the Emperor Xian's methods were still as sharp as ever. In the sky, the Emperor Xian's methods were still as sharp as ever. The evil energy filled the skies, but to the Emperor Xian, it was nothing. All sorts of powers that could not even approach the body of the Emperor Xian were killed by his aura. "Just this kind of power? How dare you stop me? Who do you think you are? If you want to save Long Fei, no one can." The Emperor Xian shouted. This time, he used his essence to create a clone to follow Pajun and the others into the world of the Sun God. The purpose was to come into contact with future troubles. And Long Fei was precisely the fear in his heart. Even if he had never placed Long Fei in his heart, he believed that a trash like him would never be able to overturn the heavens. However, Long Fei kept breaking through the sky, breaking through the thought that he had to kill her. Ripples had already appeared in his heart. Therefore, he definitely would not let this opportunity to kill Long Fei slip by. However, he didn't expect Meng Shunji to appear in the middle of his path and destroy his power. Thus, Emperor Xian was currently extremely angry in his heart. Under his rage, his power became even more violent, destroying the evil power in the air time and time again. As for Meng Shunji, he was completely dumbfounded. He panicked. There was no longer the supreme and unparalleled attitude he had before. The feeling of who I am and where I am was clearly shown on his face. "Who are you? How could your strength be so terrifying? I can't even take your credit for my epic." Meng Shunji looked hesitant, but in his heart, he was already thinking of retreating. He had never thought that he would be setting up an ancient formation to take advantage of the calamity that was about to befall him. People were all panic-stricken, and he had used his evil power to invade this place. He had transformed the entire world of the Sun God into a sinful world, and he controlled the power of the Age of Sin. He thought that he was invincible, and everything was under his control, but he never thought that an Emperor Xian would directly shatter his beautiful dream. Era, Evil? This emperor could destroy a dimension with a flip of his hand. Are you telling me Era? The trash world is the trash world. Originally, if you obediently retreated like a turtle, you might still have a chance at survival. But now, it will only be death if you stop this emperor from killing Long Fei. The Emperor Xian spoke with incomparable arrogance as he struck out with his palm. In an instant, countless evil energies were dispersed by the palm strike. Even the Dark Kingdom was teetering on the brink of collapse, as though it was being split apart. Cracks began to appear. Meng Shenji's face was also filled with panic, and he quickly opened his mouth. You misunderstand. Long Fei and I have an irreconcilable grudge. The reason he came here this time is also to kill Long Fei and Hong. I have no intention of offending you. The enemy of our enemy is our friend. We are now on the same side. In the face of a life and death crisis, even Meng Shenji could not remain calm. He hurriedly opened his mouth to beg for forgiveness. Friend? You think you're worthy? Emperor Xian sneered, his attack not slowing down at all. The palm strike landed again and again. As for the entire Dark Kingdom, the power of the tenants had finally collapsed. Puff! Meng Shenji spat out a mouthful of blood, his eyes filled with hatred. His hatred for Long Fei reached its peak. If not for Long Fei, he would never have come out of seclusion right now. Long Fei. Hateful. If I can't live on, your son can forget about getting any better. I don't believe that you can ignore your son. Origin of sin, release. Meng Shenji said fiercely, after which the entire Dark Kingdom exploded. A figure appeared as well. Little guy, Invincible Dragon. At this moment, the little guy's eyes were tightly shut, and there were countless evil auras swirling around his body. Furthermore, this evil aura was extremely terrifying and was on a completely different level compared to the one Emperor Xian had just exterminated. Instantly, following the appearance of the little fellow, the heavens trembled. The entire world within his vision seemed as if it was going to collapse. Countless amounts of blood energy surging crazily into the air from the entire world of the Sun God realm. Below, Long Fei had a feeling in his heart as well. The father and son's hearts were connected. In just an instant, Long Fei fiercely raised his head. Invincible. Long Fei's eyes were bloodshot as he looked at the little fellow who had his eyes tightly shut and was surrounded by an evil aura. It was also at this moment that the large wheel in his hand started up once again. Boom! Instantly, the wheel got out of Long Fei's control. Hoo-hoo! In a split second, the wheel began to spin in the air. Every time it rotated, it would devour an endless amount of blood energy. The entire roulette turned incomparably red. He was like a demon or a devil. Long Fei flew straight to the large wheel, using all his strength to raise both his hands up. Then, with a bang, it flew back into the void. As for the legacies of the ancient family below, he did not care at all. In the future, he could kill people. However, the little guy's safety was imminent. Long Fei absolutely could not allow any accidents to happen. Right at this time, Meng Shenji suddenly laughed out loud. Ha, I knew it. You would definitely not ignore this little thing. Meng Shenji was laughing out loud. As long as Long Fei came, then all the danger would be eliminated. When Long Fei came, he would be able to attract the attention of the Emperor Xian. At that time, he would be able to leave. Meng Shenji, you're courting death. Long Fei's eyes were blazing with fire. This little fellow was his reverse scale. He was the existence that he wanted to protect the most in his life. But now, it had become like a puppet, a cauldron that was able to contain the power of evil. A carrier. Even now, he was still unconscious and in a coma. This situation allowed Long Fei's killing intent to reach its peak. Courting death? Ha ha ha. This is your enemy. If you have the ability to do so, you should survive. Meng Shenji laughed out loud. He did not care about Long Fei's threat at all. But right at that moment, Long Fei made his move. The hand seals of the common people were easy to come by. At this moment, Long Fei no longer cared. Without the slightest hesitation, As long as he could kill Meng Shinji, no matter how much experience he had, Long Fei would not feel bad. Rumble, rumble, rumble. In an instant, a pair of large handprints fell from the sky. The power of faith was concentrated in the palm of his hand, and it descended upon the ground. Bang! Meng Shinji's body was immediately sent flying by Long Fei's palm. He fell down heavily. Puff! Meng Shinji spat out a mouthful of blood. She looked at Long Fei, her eyes filled with rage. However, most of them were in disbelief. How is this possible? How long has it been? How could your strength be so strong? Meng Shinji's expression changed. Panic filled the air. Nothing is impossible. If you dare touch my son, then even if you have transcended, even if you are the master of this era, I will still kill you. Long Fei said fiercely as the power of the great hand seal of the mortal life erupted. Whoosh whoosh. The power of faith traveled through the air, colliding with the endless evil energy. It was like a baptism. In an instant, he began sweeping the place like crazy. Meng Shinji's power was also starting to weaken. This evil energy was the origin of his power. Now that this power had been swept away by Long Fei, he would naturally be affected. Rumble, rumble, rumble. In 3 breaths of time, the evil power that filled the sky instantly disappeared. One part was baptized, and the other part was devoured by the wheel. And Long Fei, his eyes congealed. He raised the emancipation wheel above his head and faced Meng Shinji. Die. Long Fei said coldly. Long Fei said coldly. When one fell from the sky, the wheel would instantly crush down like a millstone that had been grinded with life, releasing the power to obliterate all living things. It instantly crushed Meng Shinji. Oh no, Long Fei, stop. Otherwise, your son will die with me. Meng Shinji was flustered, struggling desperately under the large roulette. But it was useless. At this time, after the wheel had devoured the endless evil and blood energy, even Long Fei was a little uncertain on how to proceed. However, the only thing that could be confirmed was that the wheel of liberation had become even more berserk. With a spin, he could crush the top powerhouse in the heaven and earth. Just like now, under the power of the emancipation wheel, Meng Shinji's entire body seemed to have been refined. His aura became weaker and weaker. His entire body seemed to have aged. In just a few breaths of time, Meng Shinji had become skin and bones, and all of the blood in his body had been washed away, almost dried up. At this time, Long Fei also slightly paused and looked deeply at the little fellow. Quasi-deities were filled with killing intent. Even if the heavens came for my son, he would still have to break through to the 9th floor. Who the hell do you think you are, daring to say that you want my son to die with you? Die. Long Fei instantly made a decision. The more threatening Meng Shinji was, the more intolerable Long Fei became. Furthermore, Long Fei believed it. This little guy was born extraordinary and would definitely not be affected by Meng Shinji's methods. This was an instinctive sensation. It was as if the little fellow had told him in person. Therefore, Long Fei made a bet. In the next moment, the power of the wheel became even more violent. And under this power, Meng Shinji's voice became weaker and weaker. In the end, it completely disappeared without a trace. In this world, there was no longer any trace of Meng Shinji. The dead vanished. Even if it was laid out throughout the ages, it would ultimately remain empty. It was also at this time that the system's voice rang in Long Fei's ears. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for killing Meng Shinji. You have received 12 million experience points, 120,000 striking value points, and 1 striking value point. Ding! Congratulations player for obtaining era power. Ding! Congratulations player for obtaining the Eternal Kingdom's evil. Ding! Congratulations player for obtaining the source of sinful power. The system kept prompting him. Long Fei also let out a sigh of relief. However, he did not dare to be distracted. Meng Shinji was dead, but his biggest enemy was the Emperor Xian. This was a super big boss. A dark golden light shot up into the sky, dazzling like never before. In addition, let's not talk about the identity of the boss. Just as being an Emperor Xian was enough to make Long Fei be cautious. It was also at this time that the figure of the Emperor Xian slowly approached. Killing intent and playfulness filled his eyes. That's all. Its killing power is quite good. Unfortunately, this sort of existence can only be killed. Before this emperor, it is useless. The Emperor Xian said. His eyes were filled with ridicule. He had witnessed the entire process with his own eyes. But he did not move. He had a look of utter disdain on his face, as if he was watching a show, and was completely unmoved. Now that he said it like this, it seemed to be disintegrating Long Fei's confidence. Long Fei's eyes turned cold, and the corners of his mouth curled into a crazed sneer. Useless or useless, I'll only know after I try. Release wheel, annihilate. Long Fei roared as he activated the release wheel. Whoosh! In an instant, the wheel of liberation swept through the air, crushing towards Emperor Xian amidst the rumbling sounds. But right at this moment, Emperor Xian's figure flashed and instantly disappeared from his original position. When he reappeared, he was already in another corner of the void. With his speed, you want to harm this emperor? This is simply wishful thinking. Long Fei, give up. Before this emperor, your strength is nothing more than a clown that will not be able to withstand a single blow. The Emperor Xian continued. His words were boring. Long Fei clenched his teeth, the hatred in his eyes intense beyond compare. However, in his heart, he was extremely anxious. It was useless. Still no use. Not to mention attacking Missy, he couldn't even find his target with his attacks. No, still no. Is there really no way at all? Could it be that the Emperor Xian is really that powerful? Long Fei was burning with anxiety. At this moment, he had to stand in front of her. The power of the Emperor Xian was too strong. No one could stop it. As for Emperor Xian, his expression also changed at this moment. The playful expression disappeared, leaving behind only coldness and killing intent. Long Fei, it's over. Everything is over. One of this emperor's clones is a natural moat that you cannot let go of. You want to fight me with just you? Emperor Xian said again. As he spoke, he attacked. As his hands intersected, he pulled out a long blade from the void and instantly chopped down. And at this moment, Long Fei's pupils suddenly shrank. His mind instantly tensed up. He could feel that within this power, there was an indescribably powerful strength. Moreover, killing intent was revealed. Limitless on the other side. Great hand seal of the mortal life. Come out. Long Fei channeled his strength crazily. He gathered his strength to a high point. Boom. The hand imprint of the mortal life great palm instantly condensed in the air. Both of his hands tightly held up, blocking Emperor Xian's slash in the air. Long Fei's eyes lit up, and with a thought, he activated the wheel of liberation. However, at this moment, a crisp sound rang out. Ka! Asterisk instantly. Long Fei's heart shivered, and his eyes focused. This was because at this moment, the handprint of the mortal life great palm actually directly collapsed. Could not block Emperor Xian's blade at all. Great mortal life palm, use it again. Long Fei did not give up. He opened his mouth and spoke again. In a blink of an eye, he had formed another hand seal. At the same time, in the cosmic melting furnace. Buddha palm, 5 elements, sword demon. Regardless of whether it was useful or not, Long Fei was using it all at once. As long as there was a possibility of stopping Emperor Xian for a single breath of time, Long Fei would not give up. He needed time. As long as he could block the Emperor Xian for a moment, he would be able to activate the wheel of liberation. However, in the blink of an eye, Long Fei was disappointed. It was completely useless. All of his power was chopped down like chicken ribs in the face of Emperor Xian's blade and dissipated in the air. As for that slash, it did not weaken in the slightest. Useless. Long Fei, this emperor said that everything will end today. Don't worry. If you die, your woman, your brother, and your son will all accompany you to hell. The dragon race will become the weakest race in the world. They will never be able to rise again. I'm the most respected in the ancient world." Emperor Xian laughed crazily. At this moment, it was as though he had succeeded in his long-cherished wish. Everything would come to a perfect end. It was at this moment. The giant roulette in the sky suddenly exploded. Wong, wong, wong. A rumbling sound filled the air. Then, in an instant, it flew into the air, releasing an endless amount of fiendish blood aura, crushing Emperor Xian down. "You dog, if you want to kill my dad, you have to ask this young master whether I agree or not." Little unrivaled awakening. Little unrivaled awakening. He opened his eyes from his stupor and directly swung up the evacuation wheel, smashing it down from the void. And this was not the most terrifying thing. And what was even more terrifying was that in the hands of this little fellow, the wheel of liberation seemed to unleash an incomparably terrifying power. It was even stronger than when it was in the hands of Long Fei. Damn, so fierce. Is this still my son? Is this my relief device? Or was it forged for him? Long Fei stared at the empty sky, feeling extremely speechless in his heart. However, most of it was gratification. As long as the little guy grew stronger, let alone a wheel of liberation, even if Long Fei had to pass on everything he had, Long Fei would not hesitate in the slightest. Of course, Long Fei was also extremely worried. Emperor Xian's power was too strong. Even he was not a match for her. At this time, Emperor Xian's gaze also became sinister. In the blink of an eye, he looked at little unrivaled. "You're courting death." Boom! Emperor Xian's power exploded as she charged towards the release wheel. Rumble, 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 rumble. A huge impact struck in the air. The power of Emperor Xian's fist struck the emancipation wheel. However, something unexpected happened. This time, the release wheel didn't have a card, nor did it have a crash. He did not fall into a deep slumber. Instead, it continued to emit endless rays of scarlet light, as if the endless blood energy and evil energy were merged together, bursting out into the heavens. Boom! Suddenly, the little guy turned into a god of underworld and fought against the 9 heavens. The release wheel descended once again. The stronger one. Below, this scene shocked everyone. F*CK, little unrivaled, is too fierce. To be able to fight even against the Emperor Xian, you are truly worthy of being the boss seed. This is a bit awkward. I feel like all the years have come to a dog's body. 8 King Kong was powerless to retort as he watched little unrivaled super hottie fight with Emperor Xian. Never had they imagined that the little fellow's strength would actually be this strong. Lu Luoshi had a face full of gratification, but underneath that gratification was even more worry. As for the ancient family's patriarch, the 5 emperors' successor, and the powers under the Lord of Primal Chaos. At this moment, he was dumbfounded. Even if Li Wuxin and her group didn't make a move, they no longer had the desire to continue fighting. This battle was simply too tragic. Long Fei slaughtering tens of thousands in one go was a huge loss to them. He had been killed to the point that his heart turned cold. If Long Fei had not been lured away by Meng Shunji's conspiracy, even they would have died without a burial ground. Let's go, this is hell. Long Fei is a killing demon. Let's go. Only the Lord of Primordial Chaos can suppress him. These people had a desire to retreat in their hearts. They wanted to go around the battlefield and seize the air. However, they were already being monitored by 8 King Kong, Li Wuxin, Zhang Yu, and the others. It was impossible to leave. Like a mad dog when you kill. You want to leave now that you can't? Do you think war is a joke? Li Yuanba grinned. His height of more than 2 meters instantly transformed into a 15 meters tall giant, but his simple and honest smile still remained on his face. However, this smile was full of malevolence. It was like the laughter of a reaper. Don't go too far, unless you never return to the ancient world. Otherwise, the Lord of Chaos will definitely suppress all of you. The Gu family head said coldly. He was burning with anxiety. The longer the time was, the more likely it was that his life would be hanging by a thread, waiting for Long Fei to give up. At that time, even if they wanted to leave, it would be impossible. You're going too far. Shameless thing. You invaders can't be killed? At the time of the invasion, you were destined to die. Li Wuxin coldly snorted. With the extinction sword in his hand, he swept out once more. Instantly, the battle began. However, this battle was far from enough to move Long Fei's heart. Long Fei's gaze never left the little guy's body, because the little guy had successfully blocked the Emperor Xian. Long Fei also gasped for breath. However, he didn't dare to relax his mind in the slightest. Xiao Yan's gaze stared intently at the empty sky. In the air, battles were occurring one after another. The release wheel showed its full strength. It was as if the wheel of relief was made for the little fellow. It was as if he was controlling his arm with ease. Come on, old fart. You're the only one who wants my old man's life. Come, come, come. See if this young master will grind you to death today. Little Unrivaled's face was filled with arrogance, and he, as a god of underworld, looked down at Emperor Xian arrogantly. And Emperor Xian was no longer as arrogant as before. His eyes, however, became increasingly shrewd. I never would have thought that you would truly give this emperor a pleasant surprise. Long Fei, you really are a piece of trash. You even want your son to save your life. However, if you think that you can live on like this, then you can only say so. Too naive, the Emperor Xian said indifferently, in an incomparably relaxed manner. He looked at Long Fei with even more contempt and endless ridicule. Heavenly tribulation. Rise, Emperor Xian shouted coldly. In an instant, countless lightning bolts fell from the sky. Crack, crack, crack. The void began to crack under this force, and the void began to melt away. Even the edges of the world began to crumble and collapse, as though it had already begun its annihilation. As the power fell, Long Fei's expression changed greatly as well. Invincible, come back, Long Fei shouted. But in the end, it was too late. Countless gods' suffering force descended from the sky, bringing with it an aura of annihilation. Wherever they passed, everything became nothingness. Under this kind of power, even emancipation will instantly cease to be. The endless blood qi and evil power were instantly washed away. Nothing. Even the body of the little invincible god of underworld was destroyed at this moment and turned back to its original appearance. It was also at this time that Long Fei's figure instantly shot into the sky and directly caught the little guy. As for himself, he fled with little Invincible in the blink of an eye to the other side. On the other side, Long Fei knew clearly in his heart that the one that Emperor Xian wanted to kill was him. As long as he went to the other side, the Emperor Xian would definitely call for him. Just as expected, the moment Long Fei's feet touched the shore, the figure of the Emperor Xian also instantly chased after him. TSK. No wonder the Yang God world is the true basis of the war for the God of Boundary. I can't believe that the back of the world has something to do with the center of the universe. There's a place that was once annihilated. You also obtained your power from within, right? I truly never would have thought that you would be able to bring such an opportunity back to me. Ha ha ha. The Emperor Xian laughed crazily. At this point, Long Fei's figure had already arrived beside Hong Yi. Dad, just go all out. This old thing makes me very unhappy. It seems that this is a type of loathing that is deeply imprinted in my bones. The killing intent in little Woody's eyes intensified as his pupils disappeared and were replaced by an evil scarlet light. Fight? With what? Long Fei's pupils contracted, his face filled with helplessness. However, at this time, Hong Yi took a step forward and said, "Yes, we will use you and your son to fight." Hong Yi said with a look of anticipation. Hong Yi said with a look of anticipation. Long Fei's face turned cold as he looked unkindly at Hong Yi. Just as he was about to get angry, he heard Hong Yi speak again. Don't misunderstand. You're my last hope. Even if I die, I definitely don't want to see any accidents happen to you. What I'm talking about is also a part of the story that I once saw on the other side of the river. You and your son wield a power that can destroy the enemy with one arrow. Hong Yi said, his eyes shooting out lights as he looked at Long Fei. Long Fei was startled. The power of creation? An arrow's slope? Enemy? Are you sure you're not joking? Long Fei's face was full of suspicion. The power of the Emperor Xian was beyond imagination. Originally, Long Fei was already full of confidence, but after the battle, he finally realized. The Emperor Xian was able to control the ancient world as for tens of thousands of years, control the endless plane of existence, rise above all others in the world, and become a supreme existence. In addition, this was only a clone. After this battle, Long Fei was completely furious. However, Long Fei didn't have much fear in his heart. As long as he could return to the world of the Sun God, his clone would instantly level up and break through to the great circle of perfection. Moreover, there was also the task of protecting the Yang God realm and the mission of becoming the chief of the God of Boundary. At that time, it would be time for him to upgrade his heavenly treasure. It might not be difficult to face the Emperor Xian again, but now no. The power of the Emperor Xian seemed unrivaled. It couldn't even suppress the power of the release wheel. Not even the great hand seal of immortal life. There was no way to block it all. Thus, instinctively, Long Fei maintained a skeptical attitude towards what Hong Yi had said. Do you think I'm still in the mood to joke around at a time like this? Hong Yi said snappily. At this time, Hong Xia also walked up. Long Fei, what Zhu said is true. Just a moment ago, when I became a god of boundary, I was also in the middle of a scene on the other side of the lake. In the Yang God realm that is on the verge of destruction, it was you and this little fellow who broke through the horizon. There was an indescribable force that broke through the void and retreated from a powerful enemy. Hong Xia said as he looked at Long Fei, his eyes full of love. However, he still couldn't suppress his deep worry and his infatuation. If she could, she would rather rush out herself. However, even though she had already become a god of boundary, she was still nothing in front of the Emperor Xian. The difference was too great. Even Hong Yi and Long Fei returned in a second. Her strength was even more lacking. Long Fei muttered to himself as he looked at the incomparably arrogant Emperor Xian in the sky. Since all of you have said so, let me go this time, Long Fei said. However, he was confused. He had no idea where to start. But right at this moment, the figure of the Emperor Xian had already appeared on the other side of the sky, less than several hundred meters away from Long Fei and the others. Within this range, if the Emperor Xian were to attack, they would not be able to avoid it. A crisis had arrived. It was also at this moment that the little fellow suddenly took a step forward. Dad, I've heard that old skeleton Meng Xinji say something before. He said that the era's achievements are not complete. There is no life, only evil. It is just that it is not true. Right now, the evil powers of this fortuitous encounter of his have already been used by me. Most of them have become my strength, and are only a portion of it absorbed by this millstone. The epic he mentioned should be based on my power. However, I do not know what the power of the living is. Little Unrivaled said, and Long Fei's eyes also instantly shone with light. The achievement of the era? The power of life? Wasn't this his great hand imprint of the mortal life? Subconsciously, Long Fei took a look at his own experience. More than 100 billion. In other words, he could still use the mortal life palm twice. However, there was no connection at all between these two powers. How was one to fuse them? Long Fei remained silent. However, the Emperor Xian would not give Long Fei any more time. A pair of hands stirred the starry sky of the other shore, and endless amounts of star power was absorbed. It instantly condensed in the palm of his hand. The endless power exploded out of his palms. It instantly crushed down. Long Fei's face changed drastically. He didn't dare to stay here any longer. He instantly wrapped his arms around several people and carried them behind his back. He relied on the strength of limitless body to resist the incoming attack. Puff! With a palm strike, the strength of Long Fei's fleshly body that had just recovered crumbled once again. His entire body was thrown into the ashes, blood flowing out incessantly. Long Fei, Kid, Father, Hong Xia and the other two looked panicked as they crawled out from the ashes and supported Long Fei. No, we have to kill him. You guys take care of my dad. I'll go fuck him. The expression on little Invincible face was terrifyingly cold. Long Fei treated him as he wished. He, too, treated Long Fei as if he were the sky. If Long Fei had an accident, the sky would fall and the earth would collapse for him. That is my God. Whoever dares to touch my heaven, I'll take their life. Old Thing died. In a flash, little Unraveled soared up into the sky, and once again, he brandished the wheel of liberation. Without any hesitation, he channeled all of his power into the wheel of liberation. Rumble, 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 rumble. At this moment, the wheel of liberation started to surge. The immense power encompassed the entire space on the other side. Streams of power scattered down. The Milky Way had descended from the skies, and it was pitch black. In an instant, the figure of Emperor Xian appeared within the barrier, after which the entire wheel of liberation smashed heavily onto the ground. He wanted to crush Emperor Xian into pieces. However, just as the power of the wheel of liberation reached its limit, it suddenly stopped. Immediately after, the Emperor Xian's laughter came out from the endless darkness. You overestimate yourself. With this level of power, you can actually bind this emperor? How reckless! After today, I will be the only one. Long Fei, this variable of yours will also become a dead man. You can no longer pose the slightest threat to this emperor. Die, Emperor Xian said as his hands shook. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the aura that was released from the Wheel of Liberation was completely dissipated. Little Unraveled's figure also fell down from the sky. In fact, even the evacuation wheel had once again sunk into darkness and lost its luster. Long Fei's heart burned with anxiety, but he was completely powerless. At this moment, he used all of his strength to try and get to the little fellow's side, but before he could even move, he was immediately locked on by the power of the Emperor Xian. Destroyer-style slash, the Emperor Xian said coldly, his killing intent enveloping them. Rumble, rumble, rumble. An extremely mysterious force appeared out of nowhere, sweeping through all enemies, descending from the skies. He could foresee that if Long Fei were to be struck by this power, he would definitely die. Emperor Xian also had a cold smile on his face, as if he had already predicted that Long Fei would soon die. However, just at this moment, an elderly voice rang out from the other side of the river, with the era as the bow, and the common people as the arrow. As the Sun God's guide, Sun God's sky-splitting bow was successful. The sound was ancient, as if it contained endless amounts of the power of space-time. The sound was ancient, as if it contained endless amounts of the power of space-time. Moreover, there was still a little light shining in from the other side of the river. It was like drawing in the flames of hope from the darkness, burning little by little. Oh! Emperor Xian suddenly turned around. Looking at the two figures who were walking in from the other side, his eyes darkened. Killing intent exploded out, because at the very moment this voice appeared, a burst of power suddenly exploded forth from the entire Yang God realm. It had actually destroyed his technique and allowed Long Fei to remain safe and sound once again. Yeah, Long Fei was even more shocked. That was because the person who had arrived was none other than Yi. There was also an old man. Instantly, Long Fei turned and looked at Hong Yi. Hong Yi said with an unfathomable expression, "Haha, I knew it. Back when I transcended, I already had the feeling that you weren't that simple. I never would have thought that the situation today would be broken by you. Old man Changsheng, it's yours." Hong Yi was extremely excited. A sure death situation, because of the appearance of the longevity elder, had directly taken a turn for the worse. He and Hong Qiuyi had seen that Long Fei was the crux of the problem, but they had no idea how to proceed. However, the appearance of the longevity sect's old man was directly pointed out. The arrow was the bow. The common people were arrows. With him as the guide, Chungyang God Sky splitting bow was formed. Since you have yet to leave, how could I leave? I have guarded the Yang God realm for far longer than you. Little brat, go on, he'll protect you. As the old man spoke, he brought Little Yi to Hong Yi's side. Then, He took a step forward and stood in front of Long Fei. Ka! Asterisk, without saying anything further, the immortal elder severed his own arm. Immediately after, his arm became a drop of crystal clear blood and fell at the corner of Long Fei's lips. Boom! In the next moment, all the injuries on Long Fei's body healed in a blink of an eye. Not only Long Fei could even feel that the strength of his own body had grown by leaps and bounds. With the body of Limitless on the other side, his experience actually broke through half. It wasn't very far from leveling up. Long Fei hesitated as he looked at the old man with a complicated expression. He had a feeling. Elder Changxing no longer had much longevity left on him. Now, he had even used his own source energy to help him. He was simply courting death. There's no need to say more. Since this is a war, someone has to die. I've read too many things. The Yang God realm needs a new disciple. And you're the only one who can accomplish all of this. The longevity elder spoke as he took a step forward. He came to little unrivaled side. They did the same thing. Another severed arm, completely healing little unrivaled. And then he looked towards a void. Ancient world-s of the ancient world, I have to say, are ridiculously strong. But today you will still lose. As long as you die, my world of the sun god will be able to level up. No one can stop you. Old man Changsheng indifferently said. However, every word struck the heart. Of course, it was the heart of the Emperor Xian. Emperor Xian's eyes were filled with incomparable rage. Being stopped time and time again made him furious. Now that the old man Changsheng had appeared, instantly allowing Long Fei to recover, it caused him to feel an unprecedented crisis. A sense of danger does not exist. This emperor is unrivaled in the heavens and is the ancient world's #1 powerhouse. There can never be any kind of crisis. I can't do it with Long Fei, and I can't do it with you. Destroy, the Emperor Xian said coldly. However, the voice was anxious. There was no arrogance or superiority from before. All sorts of signs had already shown that his heart was in chaos. At this time, the body of the longevity elder started to gradually fade into nothingness as endless profound lights burst out from his body. The entire silhouette also began to turn illusory until only a head remained. Let this all end here. With me as the guide, refine. The longevity elder roared, then refined his own body. In an instant, a longbow appeared in the air. At this time, Long Fei's heart moved, and he instantly flew into the air. Little guy, get up and get to work. Don't make old man Changxing's hard work go to waste. In this battle, father and son, we shall join hands and kill the enemy. Long Fei said in a serious tone. Great hand seal of the mortal life. Long Fei shouted. Suddenly, a pair of large hands slowly took shape. However, this time, he did not attack and get rid of it. Instead, he directly turned into an arrow in Long Fei's hand. At the same time, little unrivaled's figure flew through the air. The power of the era explode. Little unrivaled's hatred soared to the skies as he looked at Emperor Xian, his eyes filled with killing intent. And as his voice faded from his body, along with from the emancipation wheel, streams of incomparably vast and vigorous energy erupted forth. It instantly condensed and completely fused into the longbow transformed from old man Changxing's body. Rumble. Another boom rang out. And at this moment, Long Fei's figure had also grabbed onto the longbow, and then he knocked an arrow. On the other side, Emperor Xian's face was already filled with panic. His eyes were wide and filled with disbelief. There was even a trace of fear. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. How can such a world possess such power? I don't believe it. This emperor doesn't believe it. Emperor's butchering stance, destroy it for me. Emperor Xian roared, exploding all the power in his body and throwing out a punch. This punch contained the power to massacre all living things, as well as the killing intent to destroy Songming. However, Long Fei remained standing and unmoving. The battle had progressed to this point. They had paid too much. Even the old man longevity had given up his life to transform into this longbow. Thus, he had to fight. He had to face it. The bow of the era, the arrow of life, the body of immortality. Emperor Xian, go, and King die. Long Fei roared, using all of his strength. He angrily pulled the bow back. Wong, Wong, Wong. The bowstring moved, shocking the world. The entire other side of the starry sky began to shake, as if it couldn't withstand the power. One by one, the meteors fell to the ground. Swish! The bowstring lasted half a month, and the world suddenly became incomparably quiet. It was as if time had stopped. Even the power of the Emperor Xian began to slow down, as if it was stopped. But Long Fei was still not satisfied. Open for me, Long Fei roared. All the pores on his body were already permeated with blood droplets, but Long Fei did not stop and pulled the bow even further apart. Boom! One breath of time later, the sun god's sky-splitting bow was finally pulled apart. This time it was a full moon. Die! Long Fei roared and instantly released his hand. The instant Long Fei let go of his hand, a ray of light flashed past instantly. Rumble! Boom! Boom! The power of the Emperor Xian was swept away by the arrow and dissipated in the air. But the arrow did not stop. It surged with killing intent and rushed towards Emperor Xian. No! Emperor Xian shouted loudly, feeling incomparable fear. He turned around and was about to leave. But there was no chance at all. In just an instant, his body was penetrated, pierced by the mortal life arrow and heavily held in the air. A single arrow had broken through the enemy. The void was silent. The stars were gone. The void was silent. The stars were gone. This arrow was the true heavenbreaker. Emperor Xian's body was penetrated by the arrow. All the energy in his body dissipated in an instant. No more. And at this moment, the body of the Emperor Xian also started to shatter into pieces. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for slaying Emperor Xian's doppelganger. You have received 50 million experience, 5 million holy source points, and 0 striking value. The system beep appeared. However, other than the experience, nothing else was given. Long Fei took a deep breath. Exhausted from his entire body, he heavily fell from the sky. Little Unraveled was the same. The power from earlier had drained all of them. Now that the crisis had been resolved, their minds relaxed, and they went limp. Hong Yi and Hong Xiu immediately rushed over and used their skills to heal Long Fei and Little Unraveled Super Hottie. Ha ha, kid, you're awesome. I knew you wouldn't let me down. And this little guy, if it wasn't for your son, I probably wouldn't have been able to hold back from wanting to take him in as a disciple. However, with a pervert like you, I will definitely not be your match. However, everything has finally come to an end. Hong Yi's eyes were filled with gratification, as if he was relieving everything. However, there was still a sense of loneliness in his joy. However, Long Fei's face did not reveal the slightest bit of excitement. It was just a clone. To Hong Yi, this was an end. But for him, the journey had only just begun. What he wanted was the life of the Emperor Xian. It was not as simple as just a clone. Of course, there was one more thing that made Long Fei's heart heavy. That was the longevity old man. The aura of the longevity elder had already been completely annihilated. And the moment he transformed into the origin strength of the sun god sky, splitting bow, the first person to die was the longevity elder when Long Fei pulled on the bow. Yaya, come here, Long Fei said. Yaya's eyes were red. She tried her best to show a hint of joy, but she couldn't be happy at all. Don't worry, we'll still need Big Brother in the future, Long Fei said solemnly. Then he looked at Hong Yi and said, since the crisis of the Yang God realm has been resolved, then the next step should be for the Yang God realm to level up. Everything is waiting for the right moment. I believe that it won't be long before a new lease of life will appear in the Yang God realm, Long Fei said. Once he said that, Hong Yi knew what was going on. Hong Autumn Leaf was the same, and her face instantly darkened. You're leaving? Hong Xiuya said in a deep voice. His eyes were filled with reluctance. How many more days do you want to stay? Or you don't have to go back at all. With your innate talent, in addition to the Yang God Realm's baptism after the upgrade, you will definitely be able to advance one step further. At that time, it will also be a little easier to face your enemies. He said. Long Fei's expression was simply too calm. The calmer it was, the easier it was for the two of them to see what he was thinking. He was leaving. It's time to go back. I've waited for too long, and I don't want to wait any longer. There's still a lot of people waiting for me, so I can't let them down. Long Fei said. After killing the Emperor Xian, the journey to the Yang God world had come to an end. He could even see the notification of the completion of the quest on the system interface. But because they were still in the Yang God realm, they did not receive any hint or reward. In that case, we can go back. Hong, he said. Long Fei no longer hesitated and looked at Hong Chiu-yi with tenderness. He did not say much. Deep feeling does not need to care about oneself. Mutual protection is not at hand. Wait for me, Long Fei said. Only 2 words. After saying that, he stood up and left, returning to the Yang God realm. Although he wanted to leave. However, there were some things that needed to be taken care of. Some people still needed to be killed. Instantly, following the arrival of Long Fei, the battle above the entire Yang God realm came to an abrupt halt. Li Yuanba and the others stopped and looked at the descendants of the 5 emperors in ancient family with playful expressions. Long Fei, let us go. We can pretend that nothing happened. Otherwise, you should know who is behind us. Ancient Family's house said. It's just a dog. What's the point of barking now? Do you think Laozi is afraid of him? Long Fei said indifferently. In the blink of an eye, a punch was thrown out. Invincible punch. This kind of power was nothing to the Emperor Xian, but to the people in front of him, it was a fatal blow. Boom! Asterisk unbiased. The head of the Gu family master was immediately blasted away by Long Fei's fist, and his head directly exploded upon contact. After which, the Lin clan. It was the Zhou family. Long Fei's strength looked down on him from above, and he did not feel any pressure at all. At this moment, he was like a brutal judge, using his 2 fists to decide the life and death of a person. Boom, boom, boom. In the blink of an eye, it was another 3 people. One after another, they were annihilated by Long Fei's fists. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for killing Gu family members. You have obtained 100 million experience points, 100 million holy source points, and 1 striking value point. Ding! The system beep could not stop. In a short period of time, Long Fei gained 5 billion experience. Adding the 5 billion from Emperor Xian, he gained 10 billion experience instantly. Unfortunately, they might be powerful in the divine space, but in front of Long Fei, who possessed absolute power, they were nothing. It wasn't even a boss. Elite monsters couldn't be counted. At most, it would be better than a broken army. But that was all. In front of Long Fei, there was still only death. In the blink of an eye, only 5 outsiders remained in the world of the Sun God. It was precisely the 5 Emperor's successor. At this moment, the 5 of them had completely collapsed. Long Fei was too berserk. 1 punch, 1 kill, no change. 1 punch, after another completely shattered all their hopes. At this time, other than fear, there was nothing else in the eyes they looked at Long Fei with. Emperor Luo Yuan, Emperor Jiao Turbid, Knight Emperor. Long Fei swept his gaze across them one by one. However, there was something unexpected. The 5 people in front of him only had the inheritance power of 4 great emperors. The last 2 had the same auras. Moreover, their strengths could even be exchanged. Yin and Yang were linked. Yin Yang Emperor. Instantly, Long Fei understood. He had the Sky Spill Empire's 3 great emperor system, so he was naturally able to discern their strength at a glance. So that's how it is. I thought that there would be an extra great emperor's legacy. Who would have thought that there would be a Yin Yang Emperor? I wonder how this power is compared to the Yin Yang Master. Long Fei thought. However, when he looked again, it was filled with greed. As long as he killed these people, he could clear another mission. It was the leader of the God of Boundary. If he could kill all the qualified contestants, he wouldn't be the leader, but what else could he be? Thinking about it, Long Fei was extremely pleased. Did you get promoted 3 levels consecutively? In addition to the fact that he had leveled up 2 levels consecutively in the Sun God's mission, he also had the experience he had accumulated. Basically, a level 6 was all that needed to be done. At that time, he would be able to advance to the 5th level of the supreme grand perfection in a single leap. At that time, who is Emperor Xian? Who is the Lord of Chaos? Dumas was a dead man. As he thought of this, his killing intent rose. As for leaving behind 5 people, that was completely impossible. Within God's pavilion, there were many who could match this kind of power. It will be enough to just pick a few. Furthermore, the 13 emperors were all a conspiracy. Not a single one of them was a good person. Therefore, Long Fei didn't leave a single successor that they had selected. On the other side, Long Fei erupted with killing intent. The 5 of them immediately acknowledged it. He immediately knelt down. Don't kill us. Long Fei, we are also the inheritors of the emperor. We can also pledge our allegiance to you. That way, you will have a chance of obtaining the inheritance of the 13th emperor. Think about it. Once you leave the sect in the future, how awesome would it be for the 13 emperors to follow you? The Lord of Primal Chaos and the Emperor Xian cannot compare. You will be the new ruler of the ancient world. The few of them spoke out madly. In front of Long Fei, he didn't even have the courage to resist. However, their words didn't have any enticement towards Long Fei, because he killed them. The inheritance was also his. Thinking about it, Long Fei smiled and said, "You're right. One day, your father will bring the 13 emperors to battle against the divinity." As soon as he said that, a look of hope appeared on their faces. It was as if he had picked up his life. But right after, Long Fei's words immediately caused them to fall into the abyss of death. Unfortunately, this does not include you all. The 13 great emperors, I have my own methods. As for you two, go to hell, Long Fei said coldly. It was extremely cold and stiff. And then his fist moved. There were no superfluous movements, no fancy modifications. It was just a simple punch. However, at this point in time, he was invincible. Boom. Asterisk boom. Asterisk after 5 punches, the 5 figures instantly swept across the sky. And, at this moment, the figures of the 5 people. There was nothing left of him. 1 punch, 1 kill. Ding. Congratulations to player Long Fei for slaying Great Emperor Luo Yuan's descendant. The reward is 3 million points experience, 3 million points holy source, and 1 point striking value. Ding. Congratulations to player Long Fei for slaying Emperor Zhou's descendant. You have received 300 million experience points, 300 million holy source points, and 1 striking value point. Ding. Ding. With 4 consecutive sounds, the few of them exploded. Just experience? It shouldn't be. Do I have to activate Berserk? Long Fei was startled. Originally, he had wanted to avoid going Berserk once. But from the looks of it, the system did not give him that chance. As for the power passed down to the Emperor, Long Fei would never give up. This was a quest related to the system. Activate Berserk, Long Fei said. Ding! Congratulations, player, for obtaining Emperor of the 9 Turbits inheritance. Ding! Congratulations, player, for obtaining the power of Emperor Fallen Elemental's inheritance. Ding! Congratulations, player, for obtaining Emperor Yin Yang's inheritance. Ding! Congratulations, player, for obtaining Night Emperor's inheritance. The system beep-s came one after another. Long Fei also got what he wanted. 4 types of powers exploded out, in addition to the inheritance power of Emperor Fong Tian, who was currently in the air. No more, no less. He just so happened to be one of the 13 great emperors. After taking care of the few of them, Long Fei's heart was filled with unwillingness to die. The Yang God world was just a place for him to settle down, a transition station. Only the ancient world was his true battlefield. Then, Li Yuanba, Lu Luoxi, and the rest all came over. Having followed Long Fei for so long, they naturally knew that Long Fei was about to leave. Boss, are you going back? Li Yuanba laughed honestly. However, his will to fight was monstrous. So far, their 8 King Kong had already undergone a metamorphosis, and the battlefield in the Yang God realm did not put any pressure on them at all. They were even more clear that Long Fei's enemy was the Emperor Xian, the leader of the ancient world. Only by returning to the ancient world would he be able to enter the battlefield. Right, it's time for us to go back, Long Fei said solemnly. Of course, he wouldn't try to persuade them to stay. This was his brother, his woman. Even if Long Fei didn't want them to take the risk, they definitely wouldn't give up on themselves. Let's go back. I've been waiting for this day for too long. Yes, with our current strength, after we return, we won't need to dodge anymore. What Emperor Xian, they'll just go head-on against us. Boss, my blood is still warm. Go back and F***CK him. Zhang Yu and the others also said. Long Fei nodded. Without batting an eyelid, he pulled Yuro and Lu Luoshi over to his side. Then he opened the system panel. But in that moment, Long Fei was stunned. In the entire system, there was actually no hint at all. The heck? Could it be that completing the mission is not enough, and you have to return to the ancient world? Long Fei's heart ached uncontrollably. Only the heavens knew how far away the Yang God realm was from the ancient world. At the same time, the system's notification sound suddenly appeared. Ding! Congratulations, player, for completing the quest, Sun God. Ding! Congratulations, player, for completing the quest, Protect the Sun God realm. Ding! May I ask if you have spent 50 billion experience to return to the ancient world? The system beep appeared. Long Fei was startled. An urge to curse appeared in his heart. 50 billion. Another 50 billion. To him, 50 billion experience points were equivalent to a level, which was equivalent to a chance to live. In addition, it was even able to execute the mortal life palm. System, are you playing with me? Long Fei asked coldly. However, there was no response at all. The system went silent. Said mechanically, helpless, Long Fei had no choice but to give in. After all, if he was allowed to roam the starry sky and return to the ancient world, even the yellow flower would become cold. Yes, sir. Long Fei clenched his teeth and said. Instantly, the power of the system directly appeared, and a streak of profound light directly enveloped Long Fei. However, this power was only aimed at Long Fei. The others were completely blocked out. Wait, aren't you going to bring us back? Long Fei asked quickly. In the world of the Sun God, everything was over. To leave, of course, was to leave together. Ding, if the player wants to bring people, they can choose to use experience to open the portal. Ding, took away one person required 50 billion experience. Would you like to take your people and leave? The system continued, asking mechanically. F***CK me. Long Fei spat blood in his heart. 50 billion experience per person? Why don't you just rob them? Long Fei felt extremely helpless. He never thought that the system would actually dig a hole here. However, he had no other choice. He couldn't even choose, unless downgraded. However, if the dozen or so people in front of him were all taken away, it could even be said that they would directly beat him back to his original form and make him fall below an ancient supreme elder. If that was the case, the price would be too high. Helpless, Long Fei could only say, "It seems like you guys will have to wait for yourself to travel through the starry sky. My power is not enough to take you away." Long Fei said. There was a look of reluctance on his face. After much difficulty, they finally gathered together. They prepared to go back and massacre everyone in every direction and to fight against the heaven and earth. However, everything had been shattered. Everyone was puzzled and wanted to say something, but the power of the system had already appeared. In an instant, a beam of light flashed past, and Long Fei's figure had also disappeared at this time. In the boundless world, the wind and clouds rose and fell. In the boundless world, the wind and clouds rose and fell. A mountain range extended for 1,000,000 kilometers. There was no limit to what the naked eye could see. But at that moment, a furious roar suddenly rang out. System, damn you. One day, I will reach the supreme plane and find the designer to write a bunch of code. I'll let you enjoy the feeling of being late. Long Fei was furious. Without any sort of summoning, he once again suffered the free fall movement. However, he had to admit that the power of the system was unrivaled. In the blink of an eye, he had already returned to ancient world. Long Fei looked in front of him, and his gaze turned outside of Thousand Sun City, the mountain range where the Abyss Demon Prison is located. Long Fei was startled. He had never imagined that his return this time around was the same as last time, coming back here. However, the situation here had undergone a tremendous change. Long Fei almost couldn't recognize him. No, what has changed is not just this place. It is an unknown region of primal chaos, but it is also the divine space. Two places actually merged together. Long Fei's heart trembled. This was something he did not expect. Following which, Long Fei sensed them with his senses. He was even more certain of his guess. At this moment, the aura in this space was even stronger. Basically, there was a baptism of the world's spiritual energy at every moment. Swallowing the essence of heaven and earth was as easy and natural as eating and drinking. In other words, even a fool could easily reach the peak of cultivation in such a world. This change is too big, to the point where there's basically the initial aura of an ancient world. However, it's still a bit too close. Long Fei thought. In the past, Long Batian had given him a chance and allowed him to witness the birth of the ancient world. The changes in the world before his eyes were no different from what he had last seen. However, the only thing that remained was one's appearance. In terms of aura, there was still a huge difference between the heaven and earth. But in Long Fei's heart, he didn't really care. Even if the divine space and the unknown land fused together, there was a possibility of reappearing in the ancient world, so there wasn't much of an impact on Long Fei. In fact, it had no effect at all. Emperor Xian, Lord of the Primal Chaos, just you wait. Long Fei am back. Long Fei shouted. The hostility and hatred in his heart had accumulated too much. Now that he had returned, what Long Fei wanted the most was to behead his enemy. It was also at this moment that an uproar suddenly came from the void. It was as if someone was fighting. Long Fei's eyes moved. His gaze immediately traveled 1,000 miles and looked towards the outside of the sky. The two groups of men were engaged in a battle of life and death. Someone from the Xian nationality? And this is someone who belongs to the Lord of all fiends? Long Fei was startled and immediately became ecstatic. Dog, 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 dog. Fight until you're crippled, and let this daddy be a Oriole. Thinking about it, Long Fei's killing intent burst forth from his heart, be it the Xian nationality or the Lord of Primal Chaos. They were all people that Long Fei had to kill. Therefore, the more intense the fight was, the happier Long Fei was. However, right at this moment, a sudden change occurred. The battle between the two sides had actually quickly split apart, and then the same time had come to an end. His target was precisely in Long Fei's direction. So. One figure after another arrived in front of Long Fei. Kid, who do you think you are? Suddenly, a black-faced, middle-aged man spoke, his eyes incomparably cold. Long Fei gave a bland glance to the people of the Xian nationality. Their cultivation was not weak. It was already the 9th level of the supreme grand perfection. Furthermore, his attire was also different from others. It was obvious with a single glance that he had quite a high position in the Xian nationality. I'm your father, Long Fei said. To Xian nationality, there was nothing to say. Brat, you're courting death. The black-faced man's killing intent appeared. With a move of his hands, his figure directly flashed towards Long Fei and smashed downwards with his palm. Heaven's splitting hand. Suddenly, the Xian nationality man behind him retreated a distance. Even the Lord of Chaos began to retreat. He seemed to have witnessed the might of this palm. I've seen bold people, but I've never seen anyone seek death. A trash of the 8th floor of the ancient era actually dares to be smug in front of an elder and spout such arrogant words. Truly, he deserves to die. Yes, regardless of whether he is Long Fei or not. Even if he is still an idiot. The people from a Xian nationality looked at him coldly and said so coldly. But Long Fei did not move an inch. To him, this kind of attack posed no threat at all. Boom! A palm fell, landing directly on Long Fei's chest. However, it did not cause any damage. Long Fei did not even take a step back. On the other hand, this elder of the Xian nationality was sent flying backwards, heavily injured by the recoil. Ka! The sound of an arm breaking could be heard. The Xian nationality elder's face was filled with fear. As if he had seen a ghost, he touched his hand that had been cut off and screamed in pain. Impossible, what kind of body is this? How can it be so terrifying? Kid, who the hell are you? The Xian nationality elder said sinisterly. However, Long Fei laughed disdainfully. I said it already. I'm your father. No, that's not right. I am the father of your Xian nationality. Back then, I did not properly teach that bastard, Emperor Xian, and created a bunch of animals that do evil. Long Fei said with a cold snort. Haha, what an arrogant brat. However, the people of Xian nationality are truly beasts as well. He still dares to fight against us. Don't forget that the past is no longer the same as the past. We are the Lord of all fiends, after all. Boy, well done. Kill them all. We can vouch for you and allow you to enter the Primal Chaos Palace. From now on, your status will rise to the heavens with a single step. The Lord of all fiends began to laugh loudly. But at this moment, Long Fei's gaze suddenly turned over as well. Ha! What sort of dog is the Lord of Chaos? I am the father of the Xian nationality, the grandfather of your Lord of Primal Chaos. He is just a grandson. Long Fei said. In his heart, his hatred for the Lord of Primal Chaos was no less than that of his hatred for his Emperor Xian. It was just a plaything. He used him to carry out his plot step by step. In fact, if it hadn't been for the fact that he had a system, he would have become the master of the chaos. Even his bones would have been reduced to ash. Brat, you sure are arrogant. It's one thing to offend the Xian nationality, but you don't even put our Primal Chaos Palace in your eyes. You can't stay here today. Kill them all. Instantly, the leader of the priests spoke out. Shwa shwa shwa. At the same time, the Xian nationality and the people from the Primal Chaos Palace attacked at the same time. And at this moment, Long Fei also blasted out a fist. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Rumble, rumble, rumble. In an instant, with Long Fei at the center, an incomparably berserk energy immediately exploded outwards, as if a storm of energy was forming, engulfing everything in its path. Puff, puff, puff. In that instant, a series of ruthless voices resounded in the air. In the blink of an eye, the storm vanished. And in the arena, other than Long Fei, there was no one else. Even the elders of the Xian nationality and the leaders of the Primal Chaos Palace were not spared. It was smashed to pieces by Long Fei's fist. A fierce competition. The system's voice also rang out once again, ding. Congratulations to player Long Fei for killing the Xian nationality elder. You have received 50,000 experience points. You have gained 500,000 holy source points and 1 striking value. Congratulations to player Long Fei for killing the Xian nationality elder. You have received 50,000 experience points. You have gained 500,000 holy source points and 1 striking value. Congratulations to player Long Fei for killing Xian nationality disciples. You have gained 500,000 experience points. You have gained 50,000 holy source points and 1 striking value. Ding! A few columns of experience and striking value. However, the difference in experience had been reduced by 100 times. If it was the Yang God world, with this level of cultivation, Long Fei would at least have gained over 100 million experience. Even if it's small, it'll cost tens of millions. But now it was only a few million, a few 100,000. He pushed it all the way to the end. Long Fei was extremely unhappy. Although he had already known that this would happen, hearing the system's notification still made him feel uncomfortable. It's a good thing that I have a few tasks on hand. Otherwise, if I wanted to level up based on the experience I would need, it would take a lot of time. But suddenly, Long Fei's eyes moved. He ignored a crucial question. That was his cultivation. He was fusing various types of powers in the Yang God realm, becoming a Yang God, and then transcending another world. However, there was no change in his cultivation. Could it be? Long Fei gave birth to an extremely powerful guess in his heart. An unprecedented feeling of excitement was born in his heart. That power was his own power. It was a force outside the isolation system. His fleshly body was his most powerful power. In an instant, Long Fei was extremely excited. Ha ha ha, if that's really the case, then that trip to the Sun God realm is simply amazing. Long Fei thought, and at the same time, looked at the system panel. Find the mission for the Yang God realm. Ding! Congratulations, player, for completing the quest Sun God. Obtain reward, 2 levels in a row. Ding! Congratulations, player, leveled up. Current level, Ancient Almighty level 9. Ding! Congratulations, player, leveled up. Current level, Super Great complete. Current EXP, 58,000,000/100,000,000. Long Fei felt a sense of relaxation, as if his entire body's bones and blood had changed a little, as a surging strength brewed in his blood, becoming incomparably surging. Ultra Great complete? Is this the level of super perfection? No wonder Long Batian kept on letting me break through. So the difference between a paragon and a paragon really is that great. Long Fei thought as his gaze swept across the long list of experience points. I don't care anymore. With so much EXP, it was impossible to farm monsters to level up. Now that he was at level 150 billion, or even 200 billion, such a terrifying number might not even be enough to slaughter an entire plane, unless they encountered another plane of existence like the Sun God world, where even an ant could bring considerable experience. Otherwise, it would be impossible to achieve it. After leveling up, Long Fei's aura became even calmer. Once his gaze focused, he would be able to gaze upon the scenery tens of thousands of kilometers away. In the distance, figures were moving about in a hurry. It was as if something was going to explode at any moment. Which direction? Is it the Chaos Palace? Long Fei felt a chill in his heart. What good could the primal Chaos Palace do? The Lord of all Fiends was incomparably berserk. This time, he had made it out of the unknown. He probably wouldn't be able to hold himself back any longer. The battle with the Xian nationality before was the most direct explanation. He wanted to fight with the Emperor Xian. The Lord of Primordial Chaos is a formidable foe as well. Long Fei's eyes were calm, his gaze gloomy, because when the system descended upon task reward, there was no hint at all regarding the Sky Spill Emperor's mission. The 13 Emperor's inheritances were already in his own hands. As for their names and deaths, they had long since vanished into thin air due to the Lord of Chaos's conspiracy. However, the mission was still incomplete. This proved that there was still a crucial part that had yet to be resolved. Long Fei only needed to ponder for a moment before he knew that the final step lay in the hands of the Lord of Primal Chaos. Following that, Long Fei looked at the system page and then at the quest of the qualified chief. Mission: obtain the head of the God of Boundary qualification competition. Obtain the inheritance of the 13 emperors. Time of mission: 3 months. Task reward: consecutively increased by 3 levels. Quest penalty: die. Long Fei looked carefully and suddenly realized that the time of the mission did not change in the slightest. When he was going to the ancient world, he only had a little more than a month left to complete the mission. System bug? Long Fei was startled. But then, he immediately rejected this notion. The only explanation was that the system had not taken into account time when he had entered the world of the Sun God. No matter what, there's only half a month left. I must complete it. It looks like I'll have to go to the Chaos Palace first. Before we take care of the Emperor Xian, The Lord of Primal Chaos must be eliminated. Long Fei thought. After that, without any hesitation, he became a beam of light and disappeared into the horizon. Xian nationality. Inside Shrine, his face was gloomy. The Xian nationality elders below did not say a word. No one dared to speak. When a man got angry, blood splashed all over the 5 steps. When the Emperor Xian was enraged, the common people did not forgive him. Everyone was extremely nervous, and the atmosphere was extremely depressing. With Emperor Xian above, their expressions were extremely gloomy. To them, this was a form of torture. It was as if he was constantly enduring the crushing pressure of his soul. At this time, an elder relied on his position and authority to break the silence. Emperor Xian, we don't need to worry. The Primal Chaos Palace will not be able to achieve its goal. As long as you kill the Lord of Chaos, the rest are just trash and can be suppressed with a flip of your hand. With these words, everyone could not help but agree with him. Yes, as long as the Lord of the Primal Chaos dies, they will be a bunch of trash. At that time, we will let them know the consequences of going against our Xian nationality. A bunch of reckless fools. They thought that they have found a backer. In reality, they are merely leading them to their deaths. Each and every Xian nationality elder was filled with righteous indignation and rage. As he said this, he grimaced in disgust. Some were even afraid that if they didn't express their opinions, it would affect their impression of the Emperor Xian. He opened his mouth and said a few more words. However, the meaning was similar. However, the Emperor Xian remained indifferent. The sinister look on his face was even more obvious. Following that, Emperor Xian raised his gaze and looked at the elder who spoke first. You think that you know this emperor very well? The Emperor Xian said coldly. The lifesaver elder was stunned. Originally, he had been floating in front of the crowd and felt that he could gain a lot of face in front of the Emperor Xian. But the moment Emperor Xian opened his mouth, fear instantly filled his heart. The cold sweat on his face dripped down. His eyes began to twinkle. Please calm your anger, Emperor Xian. This old one is just this old one. The elder began to explain, but before he could finish, Emperor Xian immediately made his move. Pow! As the slap landed, the elder was immediately sent flying. Blood immediately spurted out, and blood flowed unceasingly. Do you really think I'm afraid of that coward, the Lord of Chaos? This emperor is afraid of him? Emperor Xian was incomparably furious as he looked at the people inside the shrine with an incomparably sinister gaze. Emperor Xian was incomparably furious as he looked at the people inside the shrine with an incomparably sinister gaze. This emperor has never placed a lord of primordial chaos in his eyes. The one this sovereign truly fears is Long Fei. Do you understand? Long Fei, whom you have all killed your entire life, has finally become a thorn in my side. You all still have the nerve to suppress others? What I'm raising, it really is a bunch of trash, Emperor Xian said coldly. Killing intent soared to the sky from his voice. The group of elders before him were flushed red to their ears. However, no one dared to refute him, especially when Emperor Xian said the 2 words Long Fei. Everyone's heart shook as they looked at him in disbelief. Long Fei has already killed this emperor's clone. He should be arriving at Ancient World by now. If you guys can't kill him, then you don't have to stay here anymore. Primordial Chaos Palace. Immortal energy swirled about. The path of flying beasts was the path of immortality. This was the most realistic picture of the entire Primal Chaos Palace. Different from the Xian nationality, what the Xian nationality pursued was absolute control. As long as he had the strength, then everything would be fine. But the Lord of Chaos was different. His control over it was nothing more than the creation of an immortal realm. If he did not see it with his own eyes, Long Fei would have suspected that he had walked into the wrong place. The power of a schemer is truly extraordinary. He could use eternity to set up a trap. Using this method to confuse people's hearts and carry out mental erosion is not impossible. However, in the end, it's still a bubble. One touch and will burst. Long Fei looked at the scene in front of him coldly. Right at this moment, a cold shout interrupted Long Fei. "Hey, boy, you want to enter the Chaos Palace as well, don't you? If you want to enter, then line up." They have to undergo an examination before they have the chance to enter the Primal Chaos Palace. A rogue young man with the symbol of the Primal Chaos Palace said. A transcendent sense of superiority was present in him. It was as though he was saying, "I am someone from the Chaos Palace. I am awesome. If you want to go in, you have to listen to me." Long Fei smiled and said indifferently, "I still need to take the examination, then I—" Long Fei said, muttering to himself, "Then what else do you want? It's impossible for me to tell you through the back door. With your cultivation level, no one would dare accept you even if you went through the back door. Our Primal Chaos Palace is a transcendent land. Right now, the Primal Chaos Palace is already on par with the Xian nationality. It won't be long before he can surpass the existence of the Xian nationality and become the sole ruler of it." The man said, his face wild. "Huh." Long Fei let out a cold laugh. However, he still obediently said, "I wonder what the exams will be like." Long Fei said as a plan appeared in his mind. Examination? He never cared. This time, he wanted to turn the Primal Chaos Palace upside down to witness his return. The exam will begin tomorrow. As for the content, there are naturally too many. From cultivation to alchemy to artifact forging, everything is available. As long as you excel in one aspect, you can become a disciple of the Chaos Palace. When that time comes, you can do whatever you want to others." The man said, and looked at Long Fei with a serious face. "However, looking at your appearance, you are only trash. It is impossible for you to conduct any sort of examination. If you know what's good for you, then I advise you to scram down the mountain. Otherwise, you might bring about your own humiliation." After he finished speaking, he directly walked past Long Fei. Seems like she came to Long Fei's side, just for the sake of showing off. Right at this moment, a figure also quickly passed by Long Fei and entered a region. So, it's the Chaos Palace recruiting for new disciples. No wonder there are so many people. Long Fei thought in his heart. Without batting an eyelid, he headed in the same direction. Although this place belonged to the Primal Chaos Palace, it was still a great distance away from the true Primal Chaos Palace. In fact, one couldn't even see the entirety of the Chaos Palace with the naked eye. Thus, this area was completely empty. It was just a small district that no one cared about. No one cared. No one cared. Long Fei found an empty palace and casually walked in. But just as he was about to close the door, an arm appeared in front of Long Fei, blocking his way. "Scram!" A rough voice sounded. He was incomparably domineering. Long Fei's heart went cold. Causing trouble? Long Fei frowned and thought to himself, human nature is truly despicable. This sort of bridge would never be lacking anywhere. However, even though Long Fei did not take the initiative to cause trouble for such matters, he was never afraid. "Who did my son tell you to scram?" Long Fei retorted. "Son told you to scram." That person did not have any time to react and directly said. However, just as he finished speaking, a wave of laughter came from behind him. "My son is very obedient, but it's a pity. In my world, I have never lacked a son. Even if you admit it yourself, I won't take you." "What a useless son," Long Fei said with a smile. His eyes turned cold. "You're courting death. You're just a level 1 perfection trash. How dare you act so arrogantly in front of me? Good timing. Today, I'll let you establish your might. Let's see who dares to fight with me tomorrow." A man with a rough voice and an incomparably ugly appearance said. There was no need to think about it. They just wanted to find a sense of existence from Long Fei. But unfortunately, he found the wrong person. "You want to use me to establish your might? I'm afraid you found the wrong person." As he spoke, Long Fei's figure instantly vanished and reappeared, directly closing in on the middle-aged man. With a move of his shoulder, he instantly knocked over the other party's chest. Hardness of meat against meat. Boom! Asterisk, he was sent flying. Rumble. A large area of the house collapsed, and this person's body was completely submerged in rubble. Ding! Congratulations to player on killing Passerby Lu. You have received 140,000 experience points, 14,000 holy source points, and 1 striking value point. The system's voice also appeared. Now, he didn't just fly out, he directly crashed into the wall and died. As for Long Fei, he acted as if nothing had happened, his face full of disdain. This sort of existence was trash. There was no feeling of existence at all. Long Fei didn't even have the interest to remember the other party's words. Even if he died, he would only gain a little more than a few 100,000 experience. The only use it had was perhaps just a little bit of striking value. In the distance, a shocked voice could be heard. He's dead. His voice was filled with incomparable terror. No one would have thought that the seemingly insignificant Long Fei would actually be so berserk and directly killed a person whose cultivation had reached the 3rd level of the super perfection in an instant. For a moment, the way some people looked at Long Fei changed. With a solemn face, he was afraid that he would become Long Fei's next target. Of course, more people were hostile. Some of the people at the 5th and 6th level of the super great complete realm were already treating Long Fei as their opponent. He was full of vigilance. But Long Fei didn't care in the slightest. He was never afraid of making trouble. Not to mention, the reason he had entered the Chaos Palace this time was to cause trouble. In the blink of an eye, the 2nd day had arrived. In the blink of an eye, the 2nd day had arrived. It was noon, and the sun was high in the sky. A bell rang out in the primal Chaos Palace, directly ringing the start of the examination. A few black-robed old men descended from the sky. Their auras were surging, and their cultivation was extraordinary. Of course, this sort of transcendence was seen by most people. These people did not include Long Fei. Supreme Grand Perfection Level 9, just barely an elite monster. Long Fei was extremely speechless. This was the person with the strongest cultivation base he had seen so far. However, Long Fei remained calm and collected. If he wanted to do it, he would do it in a big way, shake the entire Primal Chaos Palace, and then catch them all in one fell swoop. This was Long Fei's thought process, and this examination was equivalent to a primer. What Long Fei wanted was to continuously lure out the experts from the Primal Chaos Palace, and then defeat them one by one. At this moment, a voice descended from the sky. It was filled with respect. Today is the opening day of our Primal Chaos Palace, so of course, it is your lucky chance. As you can all see, cultivating within my Primal Chaos Palace for 1,000 miles in a single day. This place is a paradise on Earth. Therefore, as long as you have the ability to suppress all outstanding talents, you will have the qualifications to enter our Primal Chaos Palace and become part of us. Completely get rid of the oppression of the Emperor Xian. As the old man spoke, his face was filled with pride. However, the moment these words came out, everyone became excited. Long Fei also smiled with interest. It had to be said that this person's brainwashing skills were terrifyingly strong. Moreover, he had practiced some kind of sonic attack that penetrated through the bewitching power from his voice, causing people to unknowingly become enchanted. Long Fei looked at the people around him with an expression of infatuation. He had already guessed it. It was likely that these people had long invented a blueprint for him. All of them looked forward to it. Of course, Long Fei didn't believe it at all. These words, in Long Fei's ears, were nonsense. The entire Primal Chaos Palace would no longer exist, and there would still be immortals? Just think about it. Boom! At this moment, the sound of a bell could be heard. At this moment, the old man in the sky had completely descended and said, "All right, the hour has arrived. The assessment will now officially begin. The first stage is the test of willpower. As long as you can persist in front of the Primal Chaos Tablet for more than an hour, you'll be able to pass. Those who pass will enter the 2nd level and undergo the next stage of the trial." The old man said. Shortly after, a huge stone tablet descended from the sky. Rumble, 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 rumble. The violent tremors caused the entire area to tremble, and the stone tablet slowly descended, as if it was rooted in the void. Arcane, incomparably profound runes flowed back and forth on the surface of the stone steel, and the mysteries within it were astonishing and unfathomable. And then, one person after another became infatuated. He began to meditate on the Tao. However, it was just for an instant. Miserable screams suddenly appeared one after another. The people who were the first to sink into the comprehension did not even last 5 breaths of time before being knocked back by the Chaos Tablet, screaming and retreating 100 meters away. "Eliminate," the old man said coldly. Soon after, people from a mountain of primal chaos appeared and brought those that were eliminated down. Of course, there were also a lot of people who seemed to understand what was going on. He carefully approached the primal chaos tablet. Then, he began to comprehend the Tao. Many people also started to imitate one another as they all sat down. In the blink of an eye, tens of thousands of people in the entire area began to enter the exam mode. Only Long Fei was motionless. His gaze stared at the primal chaos tablet, not saying a word. This time's assessment isn't moving at all. Those people from before clearly weren't infatuated, but had their souls sucked away by some unknown force, and a portion of their souls then devoured. Moreover, it's the same for the people who are meditating on the Tao. With every passing minute, their auras undergo a slight change. What's even weirder is that not a single person has been eliminated after almost 15 minutes. Long Fei pondered. Thinking about this, Long Fei also began to move. No matter how deep one's thoughts were, it was better to directly experience it. I'd like to see what kind of idea the Lord of Chaos has. Long Fei's heart stirred, and he started to walk. In just a breath of time, Long Fei's figure directly appeared below the primal chaos monument. And at this moment, the people that were initially near the primal chaos tablet suddenly opened their eyes, after which their eyes became extremely red. As though they had their minds taken away, they roared out and their entire bodies collapsed. Next, the second one. The third. Claws. Countless others. In the blink of an eye, nearly 30% of the people were killed. As for the elders of the Chaos Palace, their words were as light as ever. Test failed, eliminated. Looking at this scene, Long Fei's heart trembled even more. Looking at the primal chaos tablet, the will to destroy in his heart grew denser. He was sure, behind this primal chaos tablet, the Lord of primordial chaos definitely had something to do with it. Swallowing a person's soul would seize one's mind, killing without a trace. With so many tricks up his sleeves, if there was no conspiracy, Long Fei would never believe it. However, all of a sudden, the entire primal chaos tablet burst forth with a resplendent light. In the blink of an eye, the thousands of cultivators below the primal chaos tablet disappeared. Past the test, the Chaos Palace elder in charge of the assessment was also beaming with joy. Long Fei was startled in his heart as he looked at the chaos tablet in front of him and sank into a state of shock. Of course, even the people in charge of the exam all looked at Long Fei with unfriendly gazes. "Kid, you haven't studied the primal chaos tablet?" the elder suddenly said. Long Fei turned around indifferently. "Yes, why? Do you have any objections?" Long Fei said casually. Not all. He had come to participate in this trial, not to truly enter the Chaos Palace. His goal was to attract countless powerhouse. If he did not do something, how would he proceed? And once the elder opened his mouth, he would give Long Fei the chance to do so. What an arrogant brat. No one dares to behave so atrociously in the Primal Chaos Palace. Since you aren't someone who will participate in the assessment, this matter will be easy to settle. Men, chop him up and feed him to the dogs. The elder in charge of the exam said. Just as he finished speaking, numerous figures flew into the air and headed towards Long Fei with ferocious expressions. Shwa shwa shwa. A few figures made their moves in an instant with overwhelming strength. But in front of Long Fei, it was not enough. Long Fei's figure flew over. One punch after another blasted out. It was incomparably precise. Moreover, a person only had one fist on his body, so he wouldn't attack the second time. In merely an instant, Long Fei's figure stabilized once again. At the same time, boom, boom, Boom! With a violent sound, all of the people who attacked were instantly shattered by Long Fei's fist, leaving not even their corpses behind. Ding! The system's voice also appeared, but it was just a little bit of experience. In the sky, the old man's face became increasingly unfriendly. Kid, who exactly are you? You want to make our primal chaos palace your enemy? The old man said with a cold expression, and Long Fei, with a cold snort, stomped his feet on the primal chaos monument and coldly said, "You are right. I am here to cause trouble for the primal chaos palace. What? Do you have any objections?" Incomparable berserk and unbridled. Incomparable berserk and unbridled. This was Long Fei. There was nothing to worry about. He was here to cause trouble. Also, since the assessment was conducted in the same area, it just so happened to resolve Long Fei's worries. There was no need to worry about the disturbance here. Instead, it would alert the enemy and let others be on their guard. In other words, even if the area in front of Long Fei was destroyed, no one would know about it. He wouldn't even care about it. It was also because of this that Long Fei acted unscrupulously. Following that, Long Fei looked down at the primal chaos monument as he sneered, "I, your father, will not have the fortune to walk this path of chaos. But I still want to know what the hell you are plotting. Break for me." Boom! Long Fei suddenly made his move, his legs shaking. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Rumble, rumble, rumble. With a thunder-like speed, an incomparably powerful force exploded with a single kick. Immediately, the entire primal chaos tablet began to rumble. And then, kacha, a huge crack appeared on the ground, and it almost collapsed. "Brat, are you crazy? Quickly stop. You're courting death. To even dare destroy the primal chaos tablet. This is the primal chaos palace's ultimate treasure. No matter who you are today, you must leave your life behind for me." The people from the primal chaos palace were all stunned. No one had expected Long Fei to actually dare to attack, and directly destroying the primal chaos tablet. But Long Fei completely ignored him. Another kick followed. Under this kick, the entire primal chaos tablet was no longer able to withstand the raging power on Long Fei's body and instantly shattered. It turned into countless stone fragments that scattered into the void. However, at that moment, streams of blood energy appeared in the air. This blood aura was extremely evil, and each one of them had a hideous face. Howl, howl, howl. Long Fei swept his gaze across, and with a flip of his hand, directly tore apart the ghost mask. "Ah, this is the primal chaos tablet? What a powerful primal chaos tablet. It's actually stealing one's soul. What is it? This is a tribute to the Lord of Chaos? Sacrifice with a living person. Awesome." Long Fei said lightly, and revealed the truth to the public. This scene fell in front of everyone. Those who had already been eliminated were filled with righteous indignation. Damn, I was wondering why my soul was hurting so badly. It's a good thing I didn't persist, otherwise I would have been devoured like them. So terrifying. What kind of examination is this? They're basically sending us to our deaths. Who is this boy? I owe you my life. If you say something, then we'll have the Chaos Temple here today. Yuruin was extremely angry. Although their cultivation was not high, it was not weak either. At the very least, it wasn't as if there was no lack of strength to fight in this level. But Long Fei merely gave her a disdainful look, and then he withdrew his consciousness. He didn't even glance at it. "Brat, what kind of attitude is this? If it wasn't for the fact that you saved us, just based on your arrogant attitude, I would have definitely killed you. Right? Why don't you take a look at your cultivation? A blind cat has met a dead rat. Come back." Some people said. Long Fei remained indifferent, even though their original intention was to join forces and vent the anger in their hearts. But there was no need at all. Moreover, with this kind of attitude, if it wasn't for the fact that the other party also hated the Primal Chaos Palace, Long Fei would have killed them already. "If you dare, I'll kill you all too. Why do you think you survived?" "Huh?" Long Fei sneered, a tinge of ridicule appearing in his eyes. "That's because your soul is vile, You can't even be bothered to absorb the primal chaos tablet. Frankly speaking, you were eliminated. He didn't even have the qualifications to become a sacrifice. Picking up a life? Why don't you just run away obediently and wait for death? Long Fei showed no mercy. For these people, there were some things that they thought they were too awesome, even if you didn't say them out loud. Instantly, the group of people fell silent. Anger was written all over his face. However, no one objected, especially the person who hooted at him at the start. His face and ears were flushed even more red as he looked at Long Fei with a flushed face. Just as he was about to speak, he was cut off by the laughter of the Chaos Palace's elders. Ha ha, you're right. They're just eliminated trash, but how strong do you think you are? Destroying the sacred artifact of our primal Chaos Palace. No matter who you are, you will undoubtedly die. Annihilate him. The elders of the primal Chaos Palace all gave out orders. Instantly, one figure after another appeared out of nowhere. In an instant, the surrounding space was surrounded. Shwa shwa shwa. In an instant, the light was resplendent and dazzling. Burning heaven palm, melting bone fist, soul steam water. One figure after another appeared, each of them using their own methods, covering the entire sky and rushing over, wanting to kill Long Fei. But to Long Fei, these powers were too weak. Limitless physical body was above that of a paragon. With this kind of body, even if he stood still, all of this energy would not be able to harm Long Fei in the slightest. Boom, 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 boom. It could be seen with the naked eye that all of these energies crazily struck Long Fei's body. Everyone's face revealed a relaxed expression. He's dead for sure. So much energy was bombarded against his body. He can't possibly continue to live. Right. It's definitely impossible for him to continue living. Even a peak paragon would have to die from this sort of power, much less a trash like him. Everyone stopped their attacks and said, in their eyes, Long Fei was definitely going to die. But at that moment, an extremely awkward voice sounded out. Yes, it's quite powerful. It feels very comfortable. Anything else? Continue, don't stop. Long Fei's voice sounded out. His voice was filled with ridicule. That's right, disdain and mockery. These are the most powerful forces in your eyes, but they're nothing in your father's eyes. In that instant, countless people were stunned beyond belief. Long Fei's figure slowly walked out of the endless crisscrossing light and darkness. There were no injuries at all on his body. Not to mention injuries, not even a layer of skin was damaged. This is impossible. He's only trash. How could he possibly block our power? I don't believe it. They all said the same thing in unison, and they were all shocked. Long Fei's appearance had shattered their suspicions, and even their own strength had become doubtful. But Long Fei would not give them more time to think. He punched out with his backhand. Boom! Space exploded. Dozens of people didn't have time to react and were hit by Long Fei's fist. And then it heavily smashed onto the ground. Boom! Asterisk bang bang, they all spat out blood, and some of them even had bits of flesh mixed in. With a look of unwillingness, he looked at Long Fei with hatred. And then he died. Trash? With just you two? You dare to say I'm your father? Who the F asterisk CK dares to call me a piece of trash now? In the future, these two words will only belong to you. Long Fei said word by word. There was not a single sound in the entire area as everyone stared dumbstruck at what had just happened. There was not a single sound in the entire area as everyone stared dumbstruck at what had just happened. Even the elder in charge of the audit had a frightened look on his face at this moment. This time, Long Fei had already become a synonym for him in his heart. Even if it was him, he would at least lose a layer of skin from the power from earlier. However, it did not cause the slightest amount of harm to Long Fei. This meant that Long Fei was stronger than him by more than a little. As the Chaos Palace elder thought of this, his expression suddenly changed. Without further ado, he turned and ran. However, just as his figure touched the space level, a pair of large hands attacked from behind, grabbing him by the neck. You want to leave? Back then, I killed Xian nationality dogs. Now, there's one more. Even the dogs of the primal chaos are killed. Long Fei said as he exerted some strength in his palm. Ka! Asterisk the Elder's neck was instantly twisted by Long Fei. The berserk energy directly cut off all life vitality from his body, cutting off all possibility of survival. Even if it was the soul, Long Fei would not let it go, as he too was annihilated in the air. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for killing a Chaos Palace Elder. You have received 120,000 experience, 120,000 holy source points, and 1 striking value point. Ding! The system's notification sound appeared at once. But this hint already made Long Fei not interested in the slightest. Nothing but little experience. In the next moment, Long Fei's figure did not stay for long as he directly tore open the energy barrier in the air and disappeared in a flash, entering the second level. Shwa shwa shwa. The moment it descended, countless figures fixated on Long Fei's body. It's him. This trash has also passed the examination and entered the second level? That shouldn't be right. He was the last one to enter. Doesn't that mean he lasted the longest? That's impossible. He's just trash at the first level of the super perfection. How could he be stronger than us? In an instant, voices appeared one by one. They were all gathered at the same round of Long Fei. They felt that it was extremely unscientific for Long Fei to be in this area at this time. Long Fei was too lazy to explain. There was no need. These people had already been targeted by the Lord of the Chaos. It wouldn't be long before they became offerings. Sad, Long Fei thought. These people were all quite talented. However, he was lost in his own thoughts by the Chaos Palace. An illusory cultivation holy land had directly cost them the rest of their lives. Moreover, this kind of fighting to the death was something that even Long Fei could not bear to stop. Of course, there are also a few people who had their eyes on Long Fei, their expressions extremely heavy. They were the audit elders in charge of this area. Kid, how did you get in? The passage is already closed. How did you get in? Right, speak truthfully. The primal chaos tablets have already been sent over. There's absolutely no way anyone can enter. A few of them looked imposing as they looked at Long Fei and said coldly. Long Fei's gaze turned slightly, and he chuckled. I'm an exception. Just now I thought I failed, but the primal chaos tablet suddenly exploded and I came in. Long Fei said, easily stated. It was as if he was talking about something insignificant. The people in charge of the assessment also became silent at this moment. They similarly did not believe Long Fei's words. Immediately, a person gave an order to the person beside him, who then immediately tore open the void and prepared to turn back. Long Fei did not think so either. At most, he would just discover that the upper level was no longer there. However, when he returns, he will likely find that the second floor is also in ruins. At this moment, the elder in charge of the audit also began to speak. The test of the second floor is cultivation. The rules for this exam are also the same. There are no rules, and I still need you to stay on the stage. Even if you succeed. The assessment criteria this time are 10,000 people in each group, and 10 of them will be chosen. The old man said. Instantly, the crowd went into an uproar. No one had thought that the test would be so cruel. 10,000 people for 10 people, 1 in 1,000. Moreover, this was an unruly and chaotic battle. The degree of its brutality could be imagined. In the distance, Long Fei was also stunned. He hadn't thought that the second time would be like this, but it was just as he wished. In any case, his goal was to overturn the entire primal chaos palace. This way, he could actually brazenly slaughter them. At this moment, the elder in charge of the exam moved his hands and the air trembled. Streams of chaotic energy appeared and washed over everything, finally forming a chaotic battlefield. One by one, more than a dozen of them came out. This meant that there were more than 100,000 people in this exam. The area he had been in was just a small one. What a generous gesture. Is this blood flowing like rivers? Long Fei was startled and made a guess. The more he thought about it, the more he felt as though the Lord of Primordial Chaos was plotting something. It was even comparable to a mountain of primal chaos. Who cares what happens to you? I will be the one at the end of the battle. Long Fei's heart sank as he calmly thought of this. This was how arrogant he was. Who cares? I am arrogant now. I am the only one who is superior. With that thought, Long Fei no longer hesitated. He took a step forward and directly entered the platform. Instantly, the crowd erupted into chaos. Brat, who do you think you are? You dare to be the first to go up onto the platform? In an instant, a figure burst out from the crowd. Without the slightest hesitation, he dashed towards the platform. However, he had just entered. Long Fei's fist had already arrived in front of him. Boom! Asterisk, a figure flew out. How'd he get in? How'd he get kicked out by Long Fei? The whole process went smoothly, as if time had reversed. However, the difference was that when the voice landed, it immediately caused chaos. Because that person died instantly. It was smashed to pieces by Long Fei's fist. A fear suddenly appeared in everyone's hearts. At this moment, the platform was overflowing with people. When the number of people reached 10,000, the platform instantly closed. Thus, those people started to frantically walk towards the other stages, and not a single person walked towards Long Fei's stage. There was no helping it. Long Fei was too violent. Violent to the point of making one's blood boil. One punch, one kill. This kind of existence directly cut off their possibility of leveling up, so no one was willing to face Long Fei. Long Fei was startled and laughed bitterly in his heart. He had never imagined that a single punch of his could create such power. Even the elder in charge of the exam had a stern face as he stared at Long Fei. Kid, are you here to cause trouble? The Chaos Palace elder said. Long Fei shrugged his shoulders slightly. Did I break the rules? You said it yourself. The rules of this assessment is that there are no rules. On the other hand, they don't even go to the platform. That doesn't seem to be right. Long Fei said calmly, his eyes full of playfulness. On the stage, only Long Fei remained. On the stage, only Long Fei remained. Those who hadn't made it to the other platforms were all silent. Their cultivation was not even close to the person who made the first move, and even that person had exploded with one punch from Long Fei. Casual, they had already predicted. Whoever went up first was courting death. Thus, at this very moment, no one dared to step onto the platform. As for the elder in charge of the exam, he had a stupefied expression on his face. He had never expected such a situation to occur. No one went onto the platform. Go up or give up. As for our Chaos Palace, we only have one word for those who give up, and that is to kill. Give the door 3 breaths of time to make its decision. The elder in charge of the assessment said coldly. Every platform was under his supervision. As this involved the master of Chaos's plan, he didn't dare to disobey. Therefore, he had to guarantee that every platform would be filled with people. They had to go by the established rules. In other words, no matter what, there must be someone on the platform that Long Fei was on. In that moment, the crowd was in an uproar. Many of them were looking malevolently at Long Fei. The arrow was already on the bow, so he had no choice but to fire it. If they had a choice, they definitely wouldn't want to face Long Fei. However, if they did not face Long Fei, they would lose their qualifications this time. And this was something they did not want to give up on. That is, they must go up. Attack. We will attack together. We don't believe that he is so powerful that he can stop so many of us. Right, let's attack together and kill him. After that, we'll fight again. You're right, kill him. For a time, the hearts of people moved. Countless people came to a consensus at this moment. That was against Long Fei. And on the stage, Long Fei still remained calm and collected, to the point where he even directly closed his eyes and waited. Kill. It was also at this moment that the 9,998 people suddenly shot up onto the platform. Furthermore, all of his methods were aimed at Long Fei. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The primal chaos platform swayed and shook. Countless energies exploded at once. Even the platform was almost destroyed. The elder in charge of the exam was also looking on with a cold expression. With so many people targeting him, even if he were to surpass the super great circle of perfection, even half a step to be respected would be useless. Moreover, Long Fei was only a person with a super great fortune of one level. At most, it was just the physical body strength. Even if you have some secret on you, it doesn't matter, because the dead have no secrets. The elder in charge of the assessment said, his eyes extremely cold. Especially at this time, Long Fei, who was on the platform, was actually not moving at all. In fact, the elder felt that Long Fei was too arrogant for not moving at all. It was even more insolent than them. They had completely taken away all the eyeballs in this exam. Therefore, in his heart, he too wished for nothing more than for Long Fei to die as soon as possible. Pretending to be deep. Let's see how you die later on, the elder said coldly. But just at this moment, his expression abruptly changed. He was flabbergasted and extremely shocked. At this time, on the platform, Long Fei, who was seated cross-legged with his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes, and then, with a flip of his hand, formed a large seal. Soon after, one giant seal after another fell from the sky. His edge was clearly visible. Endless light from the big seal spread across the platform. It just so happens that I am able to suppress all of you. My pagoda seal can finally be upgraded. Long Fei's eyes were filled with anticipation. The pagoda seal was a supreme technique, although it was one level lower than the mortal life great palm. However, it was already very impressive. More importantly, the pagoda seal was an energy-saving item that could be upgraded. Currently, his experience had reached the critical point when he used it 10,000 times in an instant. Ding! Congratulations to player skill leveling up, pagoda seal leveling up. Current level, floor 2 of the Buddha. The system prompted. It was also at this time that under the Buddha's seal, nearly 10,000 people were immediately suppressed. It was firmly suppressed by the huge seal on the platform. Long Fei stood proudly, looked at the elder in charge of the assessment, and asked, "If that's the case, did I win?" Long Fei said indifferently. And that elder was also looking at Long Fei at this time. His breathing quickened, extremely disgruntled. The outcome of this match will be decided by victory and death. If they do not die, there will not be enough to prove that you are the strongest. Now, if you have any methods, kill them. Otherwise, it's still not your win, the elder said. Hearing that, Long Fei squinted his eyes. A killing intent flashed in his heart. Of course, it was for this elder. The people on the platform didn't attract much attention from Longer. One only had a few 100,000 experience. Even if they were all killed, it would only be a few billion. For now, the 100 billion that was required to level up was negligible. However, Long Fei was not a kind person. The reason he suppressed them was not because he did not want to kill them. If the battle continued, it would be too slow. He didn't want to wait. But now, since the elder had spoken, Long Fei could not be bothered. Raising his hands, thousands of Buddha's seals instantly exploded outwards. Boom, boom, boom. After every explosion, a competitor would be harvested and would die a miserable death under the Buddha's seal. As for Long Fei, he also received a system notification. Ding. Congratulations to player Long Fei for slaying passerby A. You have received 800,000 experience, 80,000 holy source points, and 1 striking value. Ding! After they connected with the city for a bit, Long Fei decided to close it. These people did not have the slightest bit of expectation. They absolutely did not want to reveal any sort of divine treasure. Subsequently, he looked towards the elder. Now, is this considered my victory? He was calm and indifferent. Over 10,000 lives in an instant. It was as though it was a trivial matter. Even the eyes of the elders from the Primal Chaos Palace started to flicker as they looked at Long Fei with a little more fear. But then, when this elder thought of his identity, there was a trace of determination in his eyes. You have won. However, because you appeared too strangely before, there are many suspicious points. So, I can't let you enter the 3rd floor yet. We have to wait for them to finish their battle before we make a different decision. As the Chaos Palace elder said this, he looked at Long Fei with a complacent expression. It was as if he was saying something. My position is high, and my authority is great. What can you do? As for Long Fei, he was not angered at all, only lightly pulling at the corner of his mouth, revealing a cold and sinister smile. In that moment, the elder shuddered, as if his death was imminent as his entire body trembled. What are you trying to do? The elder looked at Long Fei and said while trembling, Of course, we should listen to the elder and wait for your decision. But why be so troublesome? If you want it to end, it's very simple. There's no need to wait. As long as they all die, I will be the only one left. Long Fei said, his gaze fixated on the other side of the stage. 5 elements, sword demon, rise. Long Fei shouted. In the blink of an eye, his figure leaped up and headed straight for the 9 Directions platform in the center of the platform. Long Fei's figure stood in the air, the aura around his body trembled, and directly sealed the space around him. Long Fei's figure stood in the air, the aura around his body trembled, and directly sealed the space around him. You want to leave? Impossible. This was the absolute disparity. Previously, Long Fei's cultivation had not broken through, so much of his strength could not be released. But now, his cultivation had broken through to the paragon level. In addition to the power of limitless on the other side, he was getting closer and closer to being invincible. At the very least, he was invincible within this region. With just a thought, even space itself could be crushed, let alone sealed. How is this possible? Who are you? Why is it that trash of the first level can seal the void of our primal chaos palace? This is impossible. The few people were extremely shocked, and their faces became filled with incomparable terror. Long Fei was like a god of death. It was incomparably terrifying. The people on the platform didn't have a high cultivation level. However, the highest level belonged to the 7th level of the supreme grand perfection. With such cultivation, he was like a melon in front of Long Fei, who was then killed. Even they cannot do it. Not to mention being unable to do so, he didn't even dare to think about it. Therefore, when they were targeted by Long Fei, all of them appeared to be in a life or death situation and revealed expressions of fear. You're still so stubborn. Aren't you an elder? Isn't that awesome? If I had left earlier, would something like this have happened? Long Fei said, as he threw out a punch. Boom! Once the punch was thrown, the void seemed to shatter. A terrifying power struck the heavens and the earth, erupting with an aura that could destroy the heavens and earth. In an instant, the elders and disciples panicked, flabbergasted. The situation turned into a mess. This power was something they couldn't avoid. Before this, they still had some luck in their hearts. He felt that even if he wasn't Long Fei's match, he would be able to escape before Long Fei acted. But now, they finally realized the reality. There was no way to dodge it. There was no way to dodge it. Long Fei's attack followed his figure, as if it could pierce the heaven and earth. The entire space was filled with the power of this fist. The elder in the lead was being targeted. He was completely enduring the impact of the punch. His facial features began to distort, and his clothes were in disarray. His body began to collapse. A little. In the time it took to take a single breath, all the flesh and blood in his body had been torn apart, leaving only a ghastly white bone. The remaining people weren't much better off, though they weren't targeted by Long Fei. But in the end, he still couldn't escape. As Long Fei's fist fell down, an elder's body was penetrated in an instant. And then, another punch. The other man's head exploded. Boom, 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 boom. Long Fei used the most original power of his body. The crazy attacks only took a few breaths of time to clear up the space between heaven and earth. Not a single one of them were able to escape the fate of annihilation. The entire region was dyed with blood, and it was incomparably cold. Long Fei watched on coldly, not moving in the slightest. The system's voice also rang out incessantly. Finally, after the system's voice finished speaking, Long Fei recovered his consciousness. 72 billion. Awesome. Looks like the power of the crazy divine space is enough for me to level up a few times. Moreover, there is also the Emperor Xian and the Lord of Primal Chaos. One of them might be enough for me to level up half a level. Long Fei thought, excited. Soon after, Long Fei's gaze turned and looked at the endless blood-colored floating. Instantly, Long Fei's heart thumped once. Their eyes all darkened, because at that instant, he discovered that the blood color in the area was dissipating, as if it was swallowed by some power. It disappeared for no reason at all. Is this the power of the Lord of all fiends? Or absorb the blood chi? Does that mean the current Lord of Chaos has yet to reach the peak of his power? As he thought about it, the killing intent in Long Fei's heart grew even stronger. While he was sick, he had to take his life. The fact that the Lord of Primordial Chaos hadn't been able to repair it was best for him, and would give him more confidence. Thinking about that, Long Fei did not hesitate at all. He instantly jumped into the air and punched out, ripping apart the space. Primal Chaos Palace, third-level exam area. A few figures were sitting cross-legged. It was incomparably profound. Every single one of them gave off an aura that seemed to cover the heavens and the earth. The Lord of all fiends is planning quite a bit. The second stratum has begun to unfold, and a boundless aura of blood has begun to emanate from it. I really don't dare to imagine. The main cause of chaos is that one's body is formed for battle. Just how strong must one be? We just need to guard this place well and select the final candidate for the Lord of Chaos. As they spoke, their eyes sparkled. At the same time, a tyrannical power suddenly exploded between the second and third layers. Boom! A surging force directly broke through the separation between the two areas. Next, a pair of arms reached out from within. He's here! Their spirits were jolted as they turned their gazes over. However, their expressions instantly turned stunned. Alone? Why is there only one person? 10 platforms? Isn't it supposed to be 10 people? What's going on? Furthermore, he didn't teleport here. He teleported here directly through the spatial rift. The few of them narrowed their eyes and fixed their gazes on the figure that was transferred over. That figure was none other than Long Fei. What a powerful spiritual force. The Lord of the Chaos's methods are indeed extraordinary. Just as he tore open the space, Long Fei felt a stream of spirit energy that seeped into his bone marrow. It was incredibly comfortable, as if he could absorb spiritual energy with a single breath. But before he could devour even more, Long Fei already felt a sense of danger. It was as if he was being stared at by a venomous snake, causing him to feel completely uncomfortable. Kid, let me ask you, why are you alone? What about the other 9? Yes, and how did you get in? Why is the teleportation formation not activated? Could it be that some accident happened, and you, a waste at the first level of the great complete realm, managed to advance? One voice after another came asking questions. Long Fei's heart sank. As he lifted his head, his eyes flashed. But soon after, it became ecstasy. Yes, it was ecstasy. These people were actually bosses. Golden light flashed, completely replacing the colors of heaven and earth, becoming the only color in Long Fei's eyes. Boss. A boss could actually appear? Haha. This is simply offering coal in the middle of a snowstorm. I still lack a ultimate skill. Let's take it out from your bodies. In Long Fei's heart, he instantly became ecstatic. It was completely out of Long Fei's expectations. With his current cultivation, in his mind, apart from the Emperor Xian and the Lord of Primal Chaos, he could ignore anything else. Then, Long Fei also thought that the two of them were the boss. He never would have thought that he would encounter so many bosses at once. 7 bosses represented a divine treasure, represented a skill, represented the possibility of defeating Emperor Xian. Under this kind of situation, how could Long Fei not be excited? Thinking about it here, Long Fei directly walked over and said, "They are, of course, dead." How dare you, Zhang Wuji? How dare you, Zhang Wuji? He looked down on everyone else. At this moment, it was the attitude displayed by Long Fei. How dare you, an existence as insignificant as an ant, speak to us like that? If it wasn't for the fact that there are some matters that require your explanation, you would already be a dead man. I advise you to kneel down obediently and tell me everything you know. Otherwise, In the middle of the air, the silhouettes of 7 experts could be seen flashing about as a tyrannical power emanated from their bodies. Shwa shwa shwa. In an instant, the figures of the 3 descended in front of Long Fei. "Kneel," one of them said. Boom. Suddenly, an incredibly strong pressure was emitted from his body. Long Fei felt his soul shake and was about to fall down. "Fuck, playing dirty?" Long Fei was startled. The spirit chi on his body stirred. The spirit chi on his body erupted, and he immediately rushed forward. Even every nerve cell in his body also burst forth with power. He had forcefully pushed this kind of pressure away from his soul. He actually blocked it? Real face has underestimated you, but ants are still ants. If I tell you to kneel, you have to kneel. Kneel before real face. The man stepped forward and pressed his right hand down. Immediately, an indescribably powerful force descended. It was like his soul was being crushed as he directly launched an attack towards Long Fei. Long Fei's eyes tightened. All the cells in his body started to move. If it was simply the pressure exuding from his body, Long Fei would have no qualms. As for his soul, although he had been baptized by the power of the other side after crossing the other side, it was mostly focused on his physical body. Only a portion of his soul had been cleansed. Facing this sort of pressure, it was very difficult for him to resist. They could only split their bodies and reconstruct their cells. An even more tyrannical power was unleashed from the other side of the river, expelling this power. Even so, he could still feel a faint soul-tearing strength. And Long Fei, at this time, also clearly saw this person's attribute. A heavenly jewel master, divine earth origin energy. Boss, supreme earth origin. Attributes, gives the power of earth origin, dispatches the power of earth element in the endless plane of ancient world. Health, 9999999999999. Defense, 99999999999. Heaven-defying health, heaven-defying defense. Long Fei's heart trembled. He never thought that this boss had such an history. It was actually an existence that was bestowed upon him by the heavens. No wonder this power can give me so much pressure. It's bestowed upon me by the heavens? Haha, we've really struck it rich this time. Long Fei was not alarmed. He didn't feel any pressure from this kind of power. Instead, he was extremely excited. The power of Earth was the power of the 5 elements. If he could obtain this kind of power, his 5 elements sword's baleful power would definitely be raised by a level. Thinking about it, Long Fei's eyes lit up. When he looked at the boss in front of him again, he saw that it had turned into greediness and saliva dripped from the corner of his mouth. The Earth Origin Stage cultivator's eyes trembled. He was scared out of his wits by Long Fei's stare. Of course, that was not the main reason. Most importantly, Long Fei had actually broken free from his suppression. He can actually break free. The expression on the face of the Earth Origin Grandmaster grew colder and colder. They were all experts of the divine plane. Right now, Long Fei, who was only at the first level of the super perfection, was actually able to destroy the power he unleashed twice, over and over again. This caused him to be instantly enraged in his heart. In all the planes of the heavens, the Earth Origin Suppression. The Earth Origin Stage cultivator was infuriated, not wanting to lose face in front of these people. Immediately, he used his own strength to suppress Long Fei. Rumble, 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 rumble. Suddenly, countless amounts of Earth-attributed energy came surging over from all directions. The earthen yellow energy surged out and covered the entire space. It was as if endless yellow sand was dancing in the air. In the end, it condensed into a giant palm. It crashed down. It was also at this moment that Long Fei suddenly stood up and punched out with a loud bang. Is that enough? If this daddy doesn't help, do you really think I won't have a temper? If it wasn't for the fact that you're the boss, I would have killed you with one punch. Long Fei bellowed. At this moment, his fist had already struck out. This punch was completely different from before. In the previous region, Long Fei's punch was only a casual attack. Now this punch of his used up all the power in his body. Boom! Rumble, rumble, rumble. The two powers collided in the void. In the blink of an eye, a deafening explosion sounded out. Under this kind of impact, Long Fei's figure flew out. His entire body seemed to have collapsed. Damn, he's that strong. Long Fei focused his gaze and remained silent. When he was still only at the 6th level of the almighty ancient times, he had already exposed the fact that he was about to ascend to the divine throne, the Tianyun city's master, Gu Xingdao. Therefore, he took it for granted and believed that even if the heavenly jewel master was a boss, he wouldn't be that strong. But now, he had no choice but to admit it. He had still underestimated the other party. This kind of explosive power actually made him feel boundless pressure. On the other side, the Earth Origin Stage cultivator was not much better off either. Long Fei's fist strength, although said to be invincible. But in this ancient world, he was similarly a top-notch existence. The destructive power of this attack was even more violent than that of Einherjar Wannabe and Einherjar Wannabe. As such, in this clash, the Earth Origin Stage cultivator was sent flying by Long Fei's punch, and was sent flying backwards. The top of his head began to turn red. Long Fei dealt 999,999 damage with one punch. However, with his 9 billion HP in defense, this sort of damage was nothing to him. However, in the end, he was still injured. Real face is going to kill you. How many years has it been? How many years has it been since I was injured? Today, I must use your life to wash away the real face's shame. Supreme Earth was infuriated. In his berserk state, he attacked once again. Long Fei was also extremely confused. Long Fei had expected that the punch just now would be able to explode the Earth Origin Stage cultivator. However, it was completely unexpected. The damage was negligible. Unscientific. Too unscientific. I don't believe that I can't kill you. Long Fei clenched his teeth. 2nd level Buddha, demon ox boxing style, instant attack. Boom, 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 boom. The two people's powers clashed in the air once again. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The endless earth attribute energy in Long Fei's berserk power exploded out once again, rumbling through the air. Boom. Asterisk at this moment, the two began to engage in close combat, clashing again and again. It went berserk. Of course, the onlookers could not see the battle between the two of them. Even though the other few people were all from the divine thrones, they could not see the battle at all. It's over. Earth Elemental has been too rash this time. That's right. If we accidentally kill this kid, how are we supposed to explain this to the Lord of Chaos? Just wait a bit. No matter what, we are still Heaven's giants. This boy looks down on everyone. So no matter what, we should at least give him a lesson. And at this time, the profound light between heaven and earth finally disappeared. The few of them also looked over. The heck? How thick is your tortoise shell? Why can't you penetrate it? Long Fei's voice suddenly came out. In the blink of an eye, the entire world grew silent. In the blink of an eye, the entire world grew silent. The remaining 6 people all looked calm at this moment. All the ease and jokes were gone in an instant. This is unbelievable. Even I suspect that what he said is true. Maybe the people from the 2nd region have all died. Maybe even the members of our Chaos Palace have died. The few of them conversed as they stared at the void. And at this time, Long Fei's figure appeared. His hair was disheveled and his face was covered in sweat. However, it did not cause any real damage. On the other hand, Supreme Earth had already been beaten black and blue all over his body. His spirit was dispirited, but similarly, there was no danger to his life. Boy, you're playing with fire. Real Face swears that he will definitely kill you today. As the Earth Origin Stage cultivator spoke, his killing intent soared to the heavens. Stop boasting. Don't you see what kind of spanking sex you are right now? If not for that layer of shell on your body that was bestowed by the heavens, it would have been destroyed by me long ago. Long Fei said in disdain. This power also made Long Fei's balls hurt. This was the first wave of battle. Long Fei used all of his strength and pushed his physical strength to the limit as he used all sorts of different methods to attack. Except for the Mortal Life Great Palm. He used the rest of his power. However, he had only lost less than a third of his health. For a moment, Long Fei was a little nostalgic of the power of the crazy god. Ultimate skill still lacks a trump card. The Hand of Mortal Life is awesome, but unfortunately, it costs too much. It's not even worth losing a boss. This time, there are 7 bosses. The system will definitely burn them for me. Long Fei thought as he looked at Supreme Earth Origin once again. At the same time, the other 6 figures also approached. Earth Origin, how are you? I didn't expect that this time we were wrong. This boy is not simple at all. But don't worry. Once we get what we want, this guy will not be able to escape death either. As they spoke, they helped him up. However, at this moment, none of them showed any signs of ridicule. Long Fei's performance made them all raise their eyebrows, and they couldn't help but pay close attention. And at this time, Long Fei's eyes were also somewhat heavy. He looked at the 6 of them. He was exhausted after just being the master of the Earth Origin realm. If the 6 of them were to attack together, even if they were exhausted, they probably wouldn't be able to do anything. No, I absolutely cannot let him off. The power within him, if he were to reveal it, it will definitely allow me to take another step forward. We must kill them all no matter the cost. Also, if they want to break into the Primal Chaos Palace, they'll have to die because of that. Long Fei's thoughts raced as he made his decision in an instant. At the same time, Supreme Earth struggled to his feet. There's no need, just leave this kid to me. Today, I must let him know what a heavenly gift is. But don't worry, I definitely won't kill him. When the time comes, I'll just hand him over to the Lord of Chaos. As he spoke, a maniacal look appeared on his face. Then the Earth Origin Stage cultivator attacked again. Myriad Realms returning source, explode. The Earth Origin Stage cultivator shouted. In the next instant, the entire world changed color. Become a lush world. Endless wind and sand filled the air, and the ground was covered with dirt. As it crazily circulated, it turned into a 9-story tower. Long Fei was startled and stared dumbfoundedly at the power that had descended from the sky. Damn, the power of faith has been brewing. The platform of the 9th level originated from plagued Earth. From the tiring Earth to the stage, it was an accumulation of faith. At this moment, the energy unleashed by the Earth Origin Stage cultivator was exactly this. An incomparable amount of energy surged forth. It was as if endless amounts of faith energy had been gathered there. It was like saying that all the senses that rested within the living beings of the land were incomparably surging and violent. In a split second, Long Fei's eyes moved horizontally as the power in his hands erupted. This time, even Long Fei was prepared to go all out. If the Emancipation Wheel is still there, a millstone should be able to kill him. What a pity. Now we can only go all out. Long Fei pondered. His eyes were filled with determination. It was also at this moment that the power of the Earth Origin Grandmaster finally descended. Whoosh! The intense power caused Long Fei to feel extremely oppressed, as though there was a huge mountain pressing down on him. This was especially the case for the power of faith, which made Long Fei feel that he was being ungrateful when he was going against revered thoughtful. It was the same as disobeying the rules of existence. It was as if 1,000 fingers were pointing at him. The power of faith formed, and countless voices reprimanded him, hacking at his mind. In an instant, Long Fei felt extremely irritable. It was as if his mind had been disintegrated by this power, and his entire aura became extremely chaotic. Ha ha ha, little bastard! You dare to injure me! Why don't you take a look at your cultivation? Are you able to go against the will of the heavens? Let me suppress it. In the void, High Lord Earth Origin became even more violent and wild. Seeing that Long Fei's emotions were messed up, she was extremely pleased. But just at that moment, the chi on Long Fei's body changed. His aura shook, and his blood energy soared to the sky. All the negative emotions were suppressed in an instant. This change stunned even Long Fei. He had not expected this at all. Originally, he was in the midst of going berserk and wanted to use the mortal life Great Palm to directly suppress it. Suddenly, a berserk energy exploded from within his pubes. Suddenly, it erupted. It instantly floated within Long Fei's limbs and bones. Following the eruption of his strength, the energies of each and every one of his beliefs were immediately cleared up, and Long Fei instantly regained his clarity of mind. Ha! The power of the ruins. So, it has always been on me. Ha! The strongest power. With this kind of power, you still won't die? Long Fei laughed crazily in his heart. With a move of his mind, he immediately placed all of this power into the palm of his hand. Then he suddenly raised his head. Heaven's bestowal? Irreversible? I have to show it to you today. Not only that, your father will let you know today that the so-called divine throne in your father's eyes is nothing at all. Long Fei said coldly. At this moment, the face of the Earth Origin Stage cultivator became even more enraged. Impudent, an existence as insignificant as an ant dared to defy the law. Let me suppress it. As the Earth Origin Stage cultivator spoke, his power grew even more violent. But Long Fei did not dodge anymore. He then pointed his middle finger at Supreme Earth. Idiot! As he spoke, Long Fei's figure instantly shot into the sky like a divine being. A punch in the air. Endless power exploded. In the blink of an eye, the entire world seemed to come to a standstill as it instantly turned silent. Even the Earth Origin Stage cultivator was stunned. Shock and horror filled his eyes. This, a mouth without words, his entire body trembling so hard that he could no longer speak. God damn. So what if I am bestowed this title by the heavens? Today, I want you to do the same to me. The most powerful force erupted, surging through the heavens and earth. The most powerful force erupted, surging through the heavens and earth. Inadvertently, the entire world turned dark. There was no more light. Under this force, everything went silent. It was like saying, in the face of such power, even the power of the heavens and earth must bow their heads before it. In fact, even if this region was a holy land of chaos and was created by the Lord of Chaos, it would still be the same. For a moment, only Long Fei was the only topic of discussion in the entire region. It was also at this time that Long Fei's fist arrived. Boom! Asterisk the Earth Origin Stage cultivator could not dodge in time and was struck. Soon after, strands of yellow gas began to dissipate. They began to disintegrate bit by bit. Rumble, 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 rumble. This punch was unparalleled in power, and there was no place for it to hide any of its power. Even with the defense of the Earth Origin Stage cultivator, he only blocked for a split second, and then it exploded. Boom! The fist landed, and for the first time ever, the most powerful force in the annihilated civilization was revealed. With a blood-curdling screech, he fell to the ground, after which his aura began to dissipate. His vitality was weak. Yell, isn't the position of hierarch awesome? Long Fei took a step forward with a face full of disdain. Didn't I know that a heaven's bestowal throne is irreversible? Is that it? Was I stepped on? Long Fei said indifferently, extremely contemptuous. Brat, don't be too presumptuous. You must know that this is the Primal Chaos Palace. The Lord of Primal Chaos is comparable to, or even more powerful than, the Emperor Xian. Do you dare to not respect him? I advise you to stop when the time is right and not to cause yourself any trouble. Venerable Earth Origin heaved a sigh of relief as he spoke harshly. Even now, he was still unwilling to give in. You're still so awesome? Do you think the 6 of them can protect you? Or could it be that your father is afraid of the Lord of Chaos? Long Fei was startled. The rage in his heart raged. He had never thought that the Earth Origin Stage cultivator would still be so arrogant at this point in time. At the same time, the remaining 6 people also flew into a rage. Impudent boy. Don't think that you can be arrogant just because you have a few tricks up your sleeves. Our strength is not something you can imagine. If you kneel down and beg for mercy now, you will still have a chance to live. Otherwise, 3 more people spoke out, their faces filled with incomparable arrogance. Before this, they had also felt the kind of explosive power that came from Long Fei, and it was extremely berserk. However, they had a mission on them, so they could not let Long Fei go. Furthermore, they had already gotten used to being the masters of countless years. It was simply intolerable for them to act so arrogantly in front of them. However, it was this decision that pushed them directly into the abyss of death. Then he looked at Long Fei. He still had a look of disapproval. Impudent? There are retards every year, and there are even more this year. She always thinks that she is superior. Then today, I will drag you down from the altar as well. The power of the realm of the ruins. Explode. He shouted loudly. Long Fei's legs suddenly sank as he stomped his foot. The Earth Origin Stage cultivator's body instantly exploded. There was no chance for him to recover, and he directly shattered into hundreds of pieces. Blood splattered everywhere. And because of this, Long Fei did not stop his footsteps. He turned his attention to the void above him. Another punch. Brat, the person that Long Fei had locked onto was wearing a red robe. Planar flame, combust. The quintessence of the 5 elements fire, hierarch fire. Venerable, flaming origin. Supreme flame? So it really is the power of the 5 elements. Just nice. Feed a skill to your father. Die for me. Boom. Asterisk, Ryumblow. Long Fei's eyes were firm and determined, his body penetrating through the endless heavenly fire. Punches after punches, continuously punching out. Pa, 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 pa. One after another, dispersed the flames. Moreover, every time the flames dissipated, a roar of rage would come from the fire, Venerable One. Ah, boy. Boom. Asterisk, I'll fight it out with you. Bang, bang. No, don't kill me, I was wrong. Sire, stop. Let me go. I'll follow you in the future. I am a heaven's gift hierarchy, a venerable flaming essence master. I can help you with your alchemy, forge weapons, and kill people. Venerable flame fairies' pleas for mercy continued to ring out in the fiery light. Alchemy, forging? Lousy knows how. What's the use of asking you? If you can help me live and cook, I can spare your life. Long Fei said coldly. They were ridiculing him. Once, what did it matter if you were on top of the altar? Now it was the same. He had to crawl down like a dog and beg for mercy. No matter what, Long Fei would not let him off. But what Long Fei didn't expect was that he would say it so casually. Venerable Flame Fairy seemed to have grabbed onto the last straw of hope as he quickly replied, Right. I can cook for you. Spare me. Long Fei. Long Fei was stunned. He really wanted to ask, do you want to humiliate yourself? Do you have any moral integrity left? That arrogant appearance from before, was he serious? But unfortunately, no matter how the other party performed, Long Fei would not let them off. I'm sorry, but I've already prepared a meal for you. You can start a fire to cook and keep it for yourself on the path to the Yellow Springs. You can share. Die. Boom. As Long Fei said this, he released the ultimate punch that directly hit the center of the flame. Rumble. In the blink of an eye, the flames dissipated. However, the figure of the venerable flaming origin was directly turned into dust and disappeared without a trace under this power. This scene caused the faces of the remaining people to flicker. Not a single person made a sound. Long Fei's strength had broken their understanding of power. He didn't even dare to imagine that this person was at the peak of the first level of Paragon. He had actually killed them. Who the hell are you? What kind of power is this? Sir, what are you trying to do? The few of them spoke with looks of terror on their faces. Towards Long Fei and the others, they had already developed fear. He couldn't be arrogant at all. There was even terror and weakness in his voice. He was afraid that if he were to be too arrogant, he would anger Long Fei and take the lead of Supreme Earth and Venerable Fire Source. Long Fei looked over, his eyes still filled with limitless light. The awakening of that power caused Long Fei to feel extremely calm in his heart. As invincible as I am, he was truly looking down on this region. What heavenly jewel masters, what venerable ones, they were all dog shit. In Long Fei's eyes, it was just a boss. As for facing the boss, Long Fei was even less willing to say anything. In an instant, Long Fei's gaze locked onto another person. His figure moved as he said, "I'm your father. What do you want?" "To clean up the family, of course." "Die." Without wasting any words, Long Fei soared through the sky and attacked with lightning speed. The punch came crashing down once more. Water of the plane, suppress. This was the water venerable one. However, these limitless torrents of water were simply unable to stop Long Fei from moving forward. Boom! Asterisk the moment his figure landed, the shadow of his fist exploded forth. Next. Puff! No! The whales filled the entire area. The whales filled the entire area. But unfortunately, it was still irreversible. Long Fei's figure stood proudly, not the slightest bit moved. Even slaying 3 powerhouses who were bestowed divine thrones did not seem to be a burden to Long Fei at all. As for the remaining 4, they turned around and left at this moment. He didn't want to stop for even a minute. "Madman, this is a madman. I'm afraid there has been a mistake this time. Hurry up and inform the Lord of all Fiends to have the Lord of all Fiends handle this. Yes, this child is too strange. It might be the Emperor Xian's method, so we cannot fight him head-on." The few of them advanced madly. The endless power of the metal spear, the endless power of the verdant wood sword, the endless golden light of the great sun, the endless gentle moonlight. It was the exact same as the 4 of them. At that instant, none of them dared to hold anything back. Instantly, they used their most secret methods. Their only goal was to escape. Unfortunately, Long Fei would never give them the chance to do so. With a boss strength, he could then let the boss escape into thin air. Long Fei would not do such a thing. Instantly, Long Fei stopped in his tracks. Great hand seal of the mortal life, rise. Boom! Long Fei's right hand moved, covering the sky and the earth as boundless will of the mortal life immediately converged into a giant golden palm, filling the entire area. And then he gently clenched his fist. It was as if the entire area was being controlled. It was as though he could cover the sky with one hand. Boom! 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 Venerable Jin, Venerable Mu Yuan, Venerable Sunlight, and Venerable Moonlight. The power of the 4 instantly bounced back as if they had hit a transparent barrier. Run? Has Lousy allowed it? Each and every one of you, the mighty hierarch. Aren't you trying to make me wish I was dead? I thought you wanted to force your father to confess. Why are they running now? Long Fei said. Disdain and ridicule could be seen on his face. Misunderstanding, Your Excellency, this is a misunderstanding. Yes, it is a misunderstanding. With your capabilities, you will definitely be ranked below the Primal Chaos Palace. How could the people below the top 10,000 possibly care about the trials of the Primal Chaos Palace? Yes, it's our misunderstanding, and there are already 3 people who have paid the price for our mistakes. From now on, we are all one of your dogs. If I were to follow you, we wouldn't even need to put the Lord of Chaos in our eyes. The few of them were extremely flattering, without any hint of the dignity of a powerhouse. In order to survive, even the Lord of Primal Chaos was no longer in his eyes, and he held Long Fei in the utmost respect. However, these actions were completely useless. A boss's greatest value was obviously killing him. Therefore, just when they were waiting for Long Fei to forgive them, their faces filled with longing. Long Fei just ignored him and snorted. He attacked again. Boom! Asterisk instantly, the sun Venerable One was flipped over by Long Fei's fist and blasted into the air. Boom! 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 Immediately, the sunlight Doyen's body exploded under Long Fei's pressure, turning into a huge sun that illuminated the sky. Aw, kid, you forced me to do this. If you want me to die, no one will be better off. In the middle of the great sun, an angry roar could be heard. Long Fei was startled. Indestructible primordial spirit, entrusted to the great sun? Then let me see if I can protect you well this day. Long Fei said coldly. With his current strength, even if he were to enter the real sun, he would not be afraid. If he wanted to, he could blow up the sun with one punch. Therefore, how could he allow Long Fei to leave in the great sun that was right in front of his eyes? At the same time, the great solar light suddenly exploded. It was just like what the hierarch Sunlight himself had said. Self-detonation. Boom! A huge boom echoed out, shaking heaven and earth. Instantly, the entire space became empty. The power of the sunlight Doyen's self-detonation filled the space, turning it into a dazzling white light. And Long Fei's figure had also been submerged within. Venerable Jin, Venerable Mu Yuan, and Venerable Moonlight were all in shock. In their terror, they carefully moved closer to each other. Dead. He should be dead. Even the Lord of the Chaos might not be able to withstand the explosion of sunlight. Although this boy is strong, he will absolutely not be able to survive. What a pity about the daylight. Right now, we should leave this place as soon as possible and tell the Lord of Chaos what happened here. The voices of the three were weak, and their minds were still in a state of shock. As their gazes met, they prepared to leave. However, in the next moment, fury and unwillingness appeared on their faces once again. This was because the entire space was still tightly sealed by a pair of golden palms. They couldn't escape at all. No. Why? Why? Why is it that when other people die, the means are still there? Impossible. Just what happened? Their faces were filled with panic. Their gazes locked on the place that was submerged by the sunlight once again. In an instant, a terrifying guess formed in their hearts. That was Long Fei was not dead. All of a sudden, their gazes met, and all of them could see the horror in each other's eyes. At the same time, a loud sound echoed through the air. They just saw Long Fei's figure slowly walking out of the center of the light. Boom! Long Fei pulled with both of his hands, ripping apart the endless sunlight. F*CK, so dazzling. Long Fei strolled through the courtyard, rubbing his eyes. He looked at the three people in front of him who were dumbstruck. The corners of his mouth raised as he changed the topic and said, "What? I'm not dead. Am I particularly disappointed? But it doesn't matter. In any case, none of you will be able to escape. Next you," Long Fei said coldly, as if he was a judge who, with his words, directly ruled over their lives. In an instant, Honorable Guy of the Moonlight, who had been locked on by Long Fei, backed off. Streaks of soft cloud light surged from his body, forming many different types of attacks. Shwa shwa shwa. Moonlight shone down like a blade, one blade landing on Long Fei's body. However, it was useless. Long Fei's physical body was extreme heaven on the other side of the river. His physical body had been quantified, and even the pressure from the other shore's ruins realm was unable to destroy Long Fei's flesh body. At most, it would only stop Long Fei for a moment. And Long Fei's fist exploded with a bang in the midst of this endless moonlight. Boom! The Moonlight Honored Warrior looked extremely unsatisfied. He suddenly turned his head and put all his strength into defending against Long Fei. But it was of no avail. The power of the sun Venerable One could not stop Long Fei. The same goes for him. Boom! A punch swept across and destroyed the spiritual altar of the Venerable Moonlight. In a split second, in the midst of intense dissatisfaction, the Venerable Moonlight had lost all signs of life. As for Long Fei, he did not stay behind either. The system did not give any hints on how to kill the boss. It was as if they were waiting for Long Fei to kill all 7 of them before replying in unison. Therefore, at this moment, Long Fei made his move again, instantly attacking the remaining two people. Boom! Asterisk, the punch was directed at the top of Jin Yuan's head, and the blood trace instantly appeared on the top of his head. There was no time to dodge at all. He was directly blown to smithereens. Following that, another fist was thrown at Venerable Mu Yuan. It was clean, and without any fancy colors. It was clean, and without any fancy colors. In Long Fei's case, it was tough. Violence. If it was something that could be resolved with a single punch, he definitely wouldn't make a move a second time. Jin Yuan and Mu Yuan, the two of them had a line of blood on the top of their heads, and their bodies continued to fall back. Jin Yuan felt endless hatred in his eyes, looking straight at Long Fei. The hatred in his eyes soared to the skies. What is it? Yet, you still refuse to accept it? In your eyes, aren't all the people in this world like ants? Isn't it great to call yourself an ant or a piece of trash? What? You're not calling me now? Long Fei said coldly. He could not stand people who thought themselves above all others. I admit it. As long as you release me, I am willing to give up my power that was bestowed by the heavens to help you achieve your goal. Spare me. Jin Yuanzun immediately lost his temper and looked at Long Fei pleadingly. By his side, Mu Yuan had already let go of his arrogance. Prostrate on the ground, directly kneeling in front of Long Fei. Lord, spare me. Me too. I am willing to give up my divine power. I only hope to keep my life. Mu Yuan said. Long Fei snorted coldly, in complete disdain. Begging for mercy? Impossible. In this daddy's world, I definitely won't let go of any boss. Kill them all. Long Fei shouted as he clenched his fists. Then he directly threw it out. And following the actions of Long Fei, the blood of the two had, in this instant, completely disappeared. The two of them immediately perished. Whoosh! Long Fei panted heavily. Just as he was about to get up, he suddenly felt the strongest power in his body go silent again and completely disappear into Long Fei's body. Even Long Fei couldn't feel it. What's going on? Could it be that this power also has its own consciousness? Long Fei suddenly thought, but no matter what, he couldn't understand. Helpless, Long Fei could only give up. At the same time, the system's voice suddenly appeared. Ding! Congratulations to player Long Fei for defeating Earth Origin Stage Cultivator. You have obtained 100 million experience points, 100 million Holy Source points, and 1 striking value point. Ding! 7 echoes in a row was all experience. F***, are you kidding me? Long Fei was startled. His face was extremely gloomy. He had never expected such a result. F***, your father's most powerful strength has been used up, and I've used up all my experience to create the mortal life palm. Are you F***king going to give me that experience? Are you serious? Long Fei was furious and retorted fiercely. Regarding the system's unpredictable operation, he was completely speechless. It was this uncontrollable nature that caused Long Fei to have a temper that was useless, because you can't figure it out. Sometimes, one's heart would be overjoyed from the violence, and sometimes one's heart would be like dying embers, completely speechless. But after spending so much, just giving him the experience, how could Long Fei be willing to give it up? Instantly, Long Fei's pupils contracted as he coldly said, Berserk! Must go berserk. There was no other option. Originally, when Long Fei saw these 7 bosses, he wanted to get their hands on his inherent skill, even though he already had the most power. However, he was still unable to fully control this power. It was as if they had suddenly erupted and then suddenly quieted down. It was as though not making a move depended entirely on one's own strength, and was not something he could control. Relatively speaking, if the system were to unleash its power, it would be much simpler and more brutal. This allowed Long Fei to handle the situation with ease. Although Long Fei knew that the more he used the power of the system, the more he would be tied down. In the future, if he entered this higher plane, it would be easier for the other party to control him. But now, the strong enemy was on his side. If the Emperor Xian does not die, the Lord of the Primal Chaos will not perish. Long Fei felt as if he was stuck in a hole in his throat, as if he had just eaten a piece of cake and was extremely disgusted. Therefore, Long Fei immediately let go of his worries. No matter what, he had to solve this problem. At the same time, the system's voice also appeared. Ding! Congratulations, player, for obtaining the power of the Earth's origin. Ding! Congratulations, player, for obtaining the power of Fire Source. Ding! Ding! Congratulations, player, you have obtained the power of the heavenly gift Wood Origin. And also at this time, following Long Fei's Berserk command, the striking system finally gave a satisfactory answer. The power of 7 heavenly gifts had all exploded out. Haha, as expected. 7 strengths. Not a single one is lacking. Then the next step is to turn this power into my own. Long Fei fixed his gaze as he thought. But before he could even react, the system's voice once again came from beside Long Fei's ears. Ding! Discovered can swallow ignorance. Ding! Metal origin force devoured. Ding! The wood elemental energy has been devoured. Ding! There was a series of silence as all 5 elements were absorbed. Long Fei immediately frowned. He felt as if he had been tricked. Through the system, he had already understood that the source of devouring this kind of power was none other than the 5 elements sword and baleful qi. Originally, the reason why Long Fei needed the 5 element source energy was to reform the 5 element sword and level up his skill. It could be used by the system on its behalf. It gave Long Fei a feeling that he was being controlled by the system. This feeling made Long Fei extremely unhappy. However, although he was unhappy, Long Fei was still unable to interrupt the system. Ding! Successfully merged. Congratulations, player. Skill leveled up. 5 elements sword kill, upgraded to 5 elements heaven shrouding palm. Skill: 5 elements heaven shrouding palm. Attributes: suppression, annihilation level, high. Description: this skill is a supreme skill with special attributes. Every fusion of its ultimate powers can trigger a fatal attack, allowing it to ignore levels and kill everything in its path. The system's notification sound rang out. Long Fei was completely dumbstruck. Then a wild laugh rang out. Haha, ultimate skill. 5 elements shrouding the heavens? Awesome. System awesome. Only these 2 words can express my reverence towards you. In terms of strength, if you acknowledge someone else as your number 2, no one can recognize you as number 1. Long Fei laughed loudly. All of his unhappiness vanished as soon as he saw the description. He directly leveled up to the highest level skill, and it could even trigger the kill attribute. What's so bad about disregarding levels? And an extremely awesome scene also appeared in Long Fei's mind. With the sun at the top and the moon at the back, he covered the sky with one hand. Who could compare to this type of appearance? Acting tough is a good weapon. In the future, see who's in a bad mood. I'll suppress you with a single palm. Emperor Xian, Lord of the Chaos, let's see how you die this time. Long Fei thought coldly in his heart. Once the killing technique was unleashed, Long Fei's confidence rose greatly. He had been wary of her previously. Then now, he didn't have to worry about anything. With that thought, Long Fei's gaze began to look up into the sky. This level had already been destroyed. Was no longer interested in the assessment and promotion. If he were to continue walking forward step by step, he wouldn't feel as good as he did now. Just one word, dry. Now that the boss has appeared on this level, I'm afraid if I take one more step, I'll be able to enter the Chaos Palace. This way is also good. We can first finish off the Lord of the Primal Chaos, and then finish off the Emperor Xian. Then, we can enter the center of the Myriad Realms. Lord of the Chaos, your father is here. Outside the primordial Chaos Palace, the figure of the Lord of all Fiends was beginning to grow uneasy. Outside the primordial Chaos Palace, the figure of the Lord of all Fiends was beginning to grow uneasy. His eyes were filled with anticipation. He looked down at the exam grounds with a burning gaze. These testing grounds were naturally his methods as well, separating them layer by layer. Layers of sky. They were not connected at all. Only those who passed the exam could trigger the methods he had left behind and enter the next level. And now, he could already feel that the ban in the third region had been triggered. This meant that those who met his requirements had already appeared. Ha! For the first stage, blood aura and the soul of the physical body, those who are able to be chosen by me are all unrivaled. From the battle strength of the second trial, the final 10 selected here prove that their battle strength is unrivaled. The most important thing is the last test, alchemy, refining, and mastery of everything. For this person to be able to trigger my activation is definitely one in a million. Wait for him to appear, infused with the supreme blood energy that I received before forging my war body. Who else can stop my grand plan? The Lord of all Fiends had a savage look on his face. Right at this moment, the space before his eyes suddenly began to ripple. Immediately after, a figure leapt out from within. Below, with the exception of the Lord of Chaos, everyone was extremely excited. He's here. This time, it's time for us to become the hegemons of the Chaos Palace. There's actually such a heaven-defying figure, and yet he meets all the requirements of the Lord of all Fiends. However, no matter how much a genius you are, it's useless. In the end, you will become the true body of the Lord of all Fiends. Those from the Primal Chaos Palace had arrogant looks on their faces as they waited. They knew the Lord of Chaos's plan, which was why they were using the name of accepting him in. He invented this unique Chaos Palace. Their goal was the Lord of Chaos's plan. Now, the harvest was finally coming. Suddenly, space itself was torn apart. It was completely out of their expectations. They didn't want to enter the space according to the rules they had set. It was a direct, violent tearing. Boom! A pair of hands tore apart the space between the two regions. He took a step forward. It was Long Fei. The instant he entered this area, the palace appeared before his eyes. And Long Fei had locked his gaze onto the Lord of Primal Chaos in the blink of an eye. Long Fei, it's actually you? The Lord of all Fiends was startled as well. He never would have thought that after going through so many examinations and entering the Primal Chaos Palace, the one who would appear in front of him would actually be Long Fei. It's lousy. Is it that surprising? Long Fei sneered. Bastard go. I didn't think that you were actually still alive. You've survived until now? You came out to die? However, that's good too. Using your body to refine the strongest battle body, that's the most suitable. The Lord of Primordial Chaos was startled for a moment, but then his eyes began to glow with light. He had known this ever since Long Fei entered the unknown region of Primal Chaos. He had paid attention to every single change that had happened to Long Fei along the way, and had seen it all with his own eyes. The strength of his strength was simply perfect. That was why he had wanted to seize Long Fei's power back then on the Primal Chaos Mountain. However, everything was for naught. Because of this, he had planned to forge a battle body. However, Long Fei's sudden appearance caused the Lord of Primal Chaos to be overwhelmed with thoughts. No matter who it was, they couldn't compare to Long Fei. You want to kill me? That will depend on whether you have the right or not. Long Fei laughed coldly. He had come to the Chaos Palace to become the Lord of Primordial Chaos. He would not cower, and he could not cower. Just a word, Dry. How dare you? It was at this moment that in front of the chaotic palace below, those who were loyal to the Lord of Primordial Chaos all began to explode with rage. Long Fei, right? You are too arrogant. How could you disobey the Lord of Primal Chaos? Today, this old man will let you know what it means to be awed by others. Die. An old man walked out from the crowd. He waved both of his hands and created a spear out of thin air. His battle intent soared as he instantly broke through the horizon. Zhou family? Long Fei's face turned cold. Needless to say anything else, he just threw a backhand punch. Ka! Asterisk in an instant, the long spear broke, and without even the time to stab, it was directly smashed apart by Long Fei's fist. Even the people from Zhou family were not spared. In the midst of the shock, Long Fei's fist pierced through his chest. You. The Zhou family's old man pointed at Long Fei in disbelief, his lips trembling, but he did not even finish speaking a word and had directly killed all of them. Ancient family? Your master has been killed by me? He still dares to jump out now. Long Fei said disdainfully as his gaze swept across the entrance of the Primal Chaos Palace, full of slander. Ding! Congratulations on killing a Zhou family elder. You have obtained 10 million experience, 100,000 holy source points, and 1 striking value point. It was also at this time that the system beep appeared. Long Fei couldn't be bothered to care about him at all, even a paragon. Now, in front of Long Fei, he could also kill him with a single punch. He was so poor that nothing would drop from him. He didn't even have the need to pay attention to what was happening. This was the rule of the game. And Long Fei, at this moment, was violently killing people, which instantly stirred up a riot in the entire Primal Chaos Palace. Everyone was shocked by Long Fei's actions. No one would have thought that Long Fei would actually dare to take the initiative and kill them. Has he gone mad? Truly audacious. Even in the Primal Chaos Palace, you still dare to harm someone? And what did you just say? That our noble family had already been killed by him and master? What a huge joke. What a joke. Do you really think you are Emperor Xian? To utter such arrogant words. So what if you are Emperor Xian? It won't be long before he'll be living under Lord Primal Chaos's hands, breathing his last. Anger filled the air in front of the Chaos Palace. She scoffed at Long Fei, completely despised. Even if Long Fei killed one of them, they would not be the least bit moved. I didn't expect that you, Lord of Chaos, would actually raise such a group of good dogs. However, relying on your power and influence, you can also score a scene for yourself. Trusted, that's what you call relying on manpower. If they can't be relied on, then they're just a bunch of idiots. Long Fei showed no mercy, pausing after each word was spoken. In fact, even a Lord of Primordial Chaos had been brought inside. At the same time, the Master of Chaos had a gloomy expression on his face. Frost covered it. Long Fei's punch caused his heart to be unable to calm down. With his realm, he could naturally tell with a glance that Long Fei's punch contained a berserk strength that even he would not be able to do with his physical body. Kid, you're courting death. He actually insulted us. Kill. Kill him. Immediately, a commotion broke out in front of the palace. All of them spoke out urgently, wanting to show off their power in front of the Lord of all fiends. From beginning to end, the Lord of Chaos didn't speak. He did not stop them, nor did he attack Long Fei. Her eyes were only fixated on Long Fei. It seemed that he still wanted to probe further. And Long Fei, at this time, directly took a step forward, a dog that can bite, never bark. Since all of you want to kneel down and lick our bodies, this old man shall give all of you the chance to be completely loyal to the Lord of Chaos. Buddha's seal suppress. It was like a raging fire, vast and domineering. It was like a raging fire, vast and domineering. One pagoda after another descended from the sky. Every single one of them contained an absolute, crushing power. Long Fei's face was full of confidence. In regards to these people, they were at most people at the peak of the 9th stage of the super great complete realm. Long Fei did not care at all. Long Fei was extremely clear about the power of the Buddha's seal. Before, when he was only at level 1, he could sweep away the platforms of the 2nd region. At that time, those people were at the 6th or 7th level of Xiantian life form. But now his skills had leveled up. So what if he was at the 9th level of the supreme grand perfection? One word, suppress. So. In the blink of an eye, the light of the Buddha could be seen everywhere. Long Fei's figure immediately rose into the air, landing in the air above the Primal Chaos Palace as he stood with his hands behind his back, facing the clear sky. Lord of the Chaos, you nearly killed me when I plotted against you, your father. Now, it's your turn. Long Fei said, when he had first entered the unknown ancient land, he had entered into a trap set up by the Lord of Primal Chaos, and had been led there. There were many crises, and if Long Fei did not have the system, he might have failed miserably. Now that he thought about it, Long Fei was filled with anger. More importantly, the primal Chaos Emperor's plans might not be limited to the unknown. This was because he was the owner of the Jade Pendant. As for the Jade Pendant, it was given to him by his grandfather. This meant that the Lord of Chaos had long ago begun to lay out his plans. And this was what Long Fei could not tolerate the most. Mu Tianhe was not bad to him. Even if he used the entire Mu clan as the wager, he still had to fulfill it. This sort of thing was no longer as simple as being a benefactor. Rather, it was a form of blood veins restraint, to such an extent that even one's closest kin might not be able to achieve. Therefore, Long Fei would definitely not allow the Patriarch of Primal Chaos to have any influence on the Mu family. He already owed the Mu family too much. Long Fei, I have to say, you have truly amazed me. I know you have amazing potential, but I didn't expect you to grow so fast. It seems that you possess a power that is even more terrifying than Long Batian. Even Long Batian back then would definitely not be able to reach your level. Lord Primal Chaos spoke in a slow and unhurried manner, narrowing his eyes. In his eyes, it was obvious that he was greedy and wanted to take it for himself. At this moment, Long Fei wanted to kill him. He also wanted to seize Long Fei's chance. The atmosphere became extremely tense. Long Fei's pupils contracted as he looked at the Lord of Primal Chaos. Zhang Xian's heart sank. He could clearly sense that the instant the primordial chaos's master released his greedy gaze, the entire Chaos Palace began to change. It was as if Long Fei did not know of any other matter. Rumble. At the same time, the entire Primal Chaos Palace exploded. A huge pillar of blood-red light shot up into the sky. The Lord of all Fiends continued to stand proudly atop his throne. Endless amounts of blood energy, as though they were risking their lives, frenziedly poured into the Lord of Chaos's body. Instantly, Long Fei moved. The light of the sun and the moon rotated. One of them appeared above his head, releasing endless sunlight and forming a huge shield. As for the moonlight, it was gentle, shining down on Long Fei's back. 5 elements heaven shrouding palm. Long Fei shouted. There was no hesitation. The first thing he did was use his ultimate skill. The Lord of Primordial Chaos wasn't an ordinary person. After all, although he did not show the light of the boss, Long Fei believed that it was already beyond the norm for a normal boss. Not to mention anything else, just the change in front of his eyes was enough to make Long Fei feel pressured. F***CK, I've underestimated this kind of old fogey. An old man who doesn't die is a thief. As expected, strength is not just for show. As Long Fei thought about this, the heaven-shrouding palm began to gather in his hand before slamming down. It was at this moment that the Lord of Primordial Chaos finally made his move. In the blink of an eye, the endless blood energy turned into a huge bloody palm, rising from the ground. It just so happened to collide with Long Fei's palm strike. Rumble. Endless amounts of blood-red light shot up into the sky. The primordial chaos was completely covered up. This palm strike dyed the sky blood-red. Long Fei did not move, although he was shocked, but in this clash he had to face it. Boom! Asterisk the 5 elements, heaven, shrouding palm descended. The power of the 5 elements traveled through the void, releasing a power that could shock the heavens and the earth. However, to Long Fei's surprise, the moment they clashed with the endless bloody aura, it was like a mud bull entering the ocean. He did not receive any substantial damage. One after another, the leaders of the Chaos Mages' heads began to flash with misses. Damn, this is also called an absolute skill? Long Fei's eyes opened wide. He could not believe what he had just seen. Instantly, Long Fei felt like he was being toyed with. Where was the promise to kill him? What about the ultimate skill? Why was it game now? But now, there was simply no time for Long Fei to think about it. Right at this moment, endless blood, energy, surged out like a tornado. It formed a huge whirlpool, and devouring power erupted from it. Instantly, Long Fei's body tensed up. Endless pressure was falling on his body. Even his skin started to slightly expand. It was as if he was unable to withstand the power of the devouring power, and all of the power in his body started to surge forth. Ha ha ha, what a fool. Long Fei, I am known as the Lord of Primal Chaos. My actual body is primal chaos, formless and formless. No matter how formidable your strength is, how can it penetrate nothingness? Just you wait. In a short while, your strength will be devoured by me, and then everything will be mine. Your body will also become my most powerful battle body. Ha! You are the perfect cauldron. The Lord of all fiends laughed wildly, his voice echoing throughout the world. And at this moment, Long Fei's heart sank even more. He had never imagined that the Lord of Primordial Chaos would have such an ability. However, at this moment, the stats of the boss suddenly appeared on the Lord of Chaos. Lord of the Chaos, High Lord level boss. Health, defense, damage, description, possessing the chaotic body, releasing the power of chaos, able to block attacks that are relatively weaker. Long Fei's breathing became more and more hurried. He was looking at the mech related to the Lord of Chaos. Zhang Xian was speechless. It was able to block out attacks that were based on raw strength. One sentence was enough to express everything. This proved that the current Long Fei simply had no way of breaking his opponent's defense. Oh my god, how can we fight like this? If even your ultimate technique is ineffective, then how the F***CK are we supposed to play? Long Fei was extremely speechless. He secretly thought that he had been too careless recently. He also believed too much in Long Batian's words. If it wasn't for what Long Batian had said previously, and if he could only resolve the crisis of the Lord of Primal Chaos by advancing to the absolute perfection stage, Long Fei would have made a plan this time. But now it turned out, the first level of the Supreme level was simply not enough. It couldn't even break the opponent's defense. That's not right. Suddenly, Long Fei was startled. Long Fei's expression became serious, and he suddenly thought back to what Long Batian had said back then. Long Fei's expression became serious, and he suddenly thought back to what Long Batian had said back then. At that time, everything that Long Batian had said was based on the fact that he possessed the god of heaven madman. Empyrean, god, berserk experts of more than 15 levels were capable of slaying enemies. And now, he didn't have the means to do so. Could it be that the Lord of Primal Chaos's cultivation is several levels higher than that of the great, complete realm? Long Fei made up his mind. The more he thought about it, the more likely it was to be true. There were different levels of honorary positions as well. Back then, the Celestial Emperor only had the cultivation of a High Lord. Furthermore, at that time, he would have to bow down before the Lord of Chaos. From this, it could be seen that the Lord of Chaos's cultivation base had already surpassed the ancestors, becoming an ancient and higher-ranked Tao sovereign. With a thought, Long Fei's mind quieted down. At this moment, he needed a method. It would activate the killing attribute of the 5 elements Heaven Shrouding Palm. Empyrean God Priests also required a level 15 limit. However, he didn't need the Heaven Shrouding Palm. As long as he fused it with his tyrannical power, he would be able to kill others regardless of their level. Buddha's Seal. No way. The power of the ruins? Impossible. The Great Seal of the Mortal Life is also out of the question. Could he be using the inheritance power of the Great Emperor? Long Fei thought about each and every one of them, but he eliminated them all. It was impossible. The existence of these powers had a special meaning. If it wasn't for the irreversible situation, Long Fei definitely wouldn't want to use them. However, in this situation, Long Fei had to give up. Just at this time, when Long Fei was thinking about which kind of energy to fuse with the Heaven Shrouding Palm and trigger the killing attribute, a ray of light suddenly appeared in the system. And then, ding, congratulations to player on obtaining God of Boundaries Blade. The system's voice appeared. Long Fei stared blankly with a completely dumbfounded expression. The reward of God of Boundaries Blade was precisely the reward that a mission to protect the sun god realm deserved. However, ever since he had returned to the ancient world, he had long since delivered the task reward of a divine Sunday. But the reward from protecting the sun god realm had only come to him today. If not for the system's sudden reminder, Long Fei would have already been suppressed by the primary objective of killing the Lord of Primal Chaos and the Emperor Xian. System, what's going on? Why is the reward only delivered now? Long Fei asked. His attitude was resolute. From the start of his cultivation until now, everything belonged to him. Long Fei would never miss this chance. Miss will cause liver pain. Not to mention, he was a huge monster now. There was no need to think too much about it. Just by looking at the degree of danger on the mission, one could guess the difficulty of the mission just by looking at the Emperor Xian's avatar. Therefore, one could imagine how terrifying the god of Boundary Blade was. However, the system remained silent. System, don't think that just pretending to be silent is enough. This is a bug. Your eyes are affecting the game's experience. Long Fei said repeatedly. At this time, the power of the Lord of Primal Chaos was in front of him, so Long Fei had to think of a way to condense this energy. Obviously, Long Fei's attention was on the system. There was no power that was more suitable for it than the power of the system. The products of the system were of the highest quality. Therefore, Long Fei trying to force the system into a corner right now required a strand of power. Players completing a quest is considered a special mission. The reward item is also the only one in the world. It was customized to fit a player, so that's why it took so much time. The system's voice appeared. This is your problem. What I want right now is compensation. If the system had given me the reward earlier, I might have been able to use some other method. I don't need to be so passive right now. Long Fei said. He didn't retreat a single step. However, the system fell into silence once again. Immediately, Long Fei was stupefied. Now, there was no time left for him to waste. The Lord of the Chaos's attack was about to arrive. The more time he wasted, the more danger he would face. Therefore, the system appeared to be more indifferent. Long Fei became more anxious. System, this is hegemony. If there comes a day when I am in the sovereign plane, I must react. You are blatantly playing a hooligan here. Long Fei continued, but just as his voice faded, the system beeped, ding. Because of system malfunction, reward has been delayed. The player's branding stone will be compensated. After that, there was no response from the system. Long Fei's gaze was also fixated on the branding stone. Branding stone, one-time use item. Being able to brand the player's strength, in addition to the strength of the Ruins realm. The player's strength will also be a one-time use force. Seeing this, Long Fei's heart slightly settled. The system can indeed sense what is happening to me. Maybe there is a pair of eyes watching me from behind. That's why I'm giving you this compensation right now. Long Fei thought as his eyes narrowed. Soon after, a wave of cold chill emerged in Long Fei's heart. If his guess was true, then he and his woman. Thinking about it, Long Fei felt a burst of unhappiness in his heart. He thought that when the time came for him to clap, he would definitely isolate the system. What he didn't know was that in one of the control rooms of the Supreme Realm, a young man was looking helpless. What kind of idea is this? I'm an upright person. Who do you think would peep at you? The young man muttered to himself. Then his eyes changed into an incomparably resolute look. Long Fei, come quickly. Your legendary path has just been walked. It seems Paragon also needs you to create a legend. I also believe that this day is not far away. The young man began to immerse himself again and started to code one after another. The scene turned back to Long Fei. At this time, Long Fei's mind had already returned to reality. Looking at the whirlpool that was already less than 300 meters away from him, his gaze was ice cold. Under this power, Long Fei's clothes were already torn apart, and his hairs stood on end. One by one, his pores had been opened, and traces of blood were being swallowed from each and every pore. Ha ha! Long Fei, you can't hide anymore. As long as I forge you, not only will I possess a chaotic body, but I will also possess a perfect body for battle. At that time, The universe will be my sole ruler. The Lord of all fiends began to laugh wildly. A sharp light flashed across his eyes. It was as if everything was under his control. It was as if nothing would change. Laugh? The hell with laughing. If anyone whose voice is louder could dominate the battlefield, then the crows would have covered the sky long ago. Long Fei let out a cold snort and immediately took out the branding stone. And then he directly struck the force of the Buddha seal onto the stone. In an instant, the entire stone shone brightly. How is this possible? What is this thing? The Lord of Primordial Chaos's voice shook as he spoke. At this moment, the Lord of Chaos was shocked. He looked at the branding stone in Long Fei's hands in disbelief. Of course it's the thing that killed you. Old thing this time. I want to see who's going to die. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.